moved on Fort Myers Beach. Again, the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and you can see just how significant the water is, that storm surge, how powerful it is, moving that right into the island and into a tree. Guys.
Oh, wow.
That tells the story right there, because that is not a small vehicle. I mean, it's a vehicle, but it's not a small one.
Unfortunately, and as it moves down and slams into things, it can damage other things. So, oh, wow. Okay, so Estero Island, Naples, Marco Island, seeing devastating flooding, Sanibel.
Right.
We assume Captiva, although we haven't been able to see any real pictures up on Captiva yet.
And there seems to be a line at about South Cape and Pine Island where we've seen water so far. And now we're waiting for it to come this way where we are, up the Caloosahatchee and points north.
Yeah, I'm getting reports of winds of over 100 miles an hour now that have been reported in Cape Coral. And for everybody here at WINK, and if you live in the general vicinity of Fort Myers, this is it.
Okay.
Okay, the eyewall is approaching us?
It's pretty much on our doorstep, and you're going to start to hear it. You're going to hear sounds in here that we potentially have not heard. And literally, we are about to see the eye wall, and that's what brought the wind gust over 100 in the Cape, and it will continue.
Yes.
There, you can
I don't know if you can hear it on TV, but you definitely, we're hearing what most people are probably hearing at home on,
or will hear, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
So that we're going to be in that at our location for at least the next hour or two, and then we'll be in the eye. We're going to be in the southern cusp of the eye. It'll get quiet, and then we'll have very likely the maximum surge impact on the secondary part of the eye wall.
Okay, so maybe we should put up WINK Doppler 3X so you can show what Matt's talking about, so that you can see you're talking about the worst of the storm right now in downtown Fort Myers.
Yeah, let's do weather 2. Let's punch up weather 2, and literally that yellow line, that's it. And
okay.
Oh, wow.
When we heard that big gust of wind a second ago, that roar, that is the eye wall. Page Field is getting slammed. We have very accurate sensors at Page Field. We'll have to see how high the wind got. And yeah, if we could, let's just, Dylan, just go up and down north to south to see where that eye wall, just basically look at the eastern extent of the yellow line. So it's right on top of the interstate, Southwest Florida International, all the way towards Estero. And Dylan, let's go back up into Charlotte County, and especially as we take you north of the river, North Fort Myers, let's see that status. And okay, so North Fort Myers is starting to move in. Every single scan heading east. And Dylan, now let's go into Charlotte County. And there it is. You'll see a drastic increase in the wind, damaging wind. And eventually that is going to be working its way towards Punta Gorda Airport. And look at South Gulf Cove, Placida, Cape Hayes, the northeastern quadrant, oftentimes referred to as the worst part of the storm. It is right now being felt. Englewood, Rotunda, Placida. And something to keep in mind for them, they have a double whammy of, with sticking out like that, they not only get surge from the east with the general location right now, but they also get surge from the west when it starts to depart.
Oh, wow.
So they're going to get surge from 2 different directions, because that water is literally going to be forced, because it's coming in from the east from Charlotte Harbor.
Okay, so Charlotte County, look at your neighborhoods there. We're looking at it at a wider perspective now, and you can see where Captiva, Sanibel getting into the eye, but Fort Myers, Cape Coral, parts inland.
Parts of Bonita.
Right, now you are seeing some of the worst of that eye wall.
And Dylan, if we could, let's zoom in to Babcock Ranch, home to our radar site. And that is where you can see that general motion to the northeast. And it's not impossible that we do lose our radar scenes, but then we will be filling them in with Tampa and Miami. But when you're dealing with 100-mile-per-hour winds, you can sometimes get 100-mile-per-hour results. So we will get you the very latest, and there it is. There it is, WINK Live Doppler 3X. Dylan, can you zoom into the radar site on radar? Okay, and Babcock Ranch, because it should be very close to the radar site. And with the latest scan, there it is. I would say it's about 5 miles away. It's pretty much right on top of the interstate. Dylan, let's stop the loop. We'll stop the loop and just show the current frame. And it's only a matter of time before that is going to be pushing towards, there it is, definitive line. There's the eye wall. If you're watching me at Babcock Ranch, which, by the way, near the main lake area in Babcock Ranch, I saw some live shots there that some huge waves were being reported on a man-made lake.
Right.
And that is something that we sometimes have to keep in mind. These large lakes that are oftentimes man-made, they can sometimes serve as surge areas as well. It's a big body of water, and if you're on, depending on the track of the storm, if you are on, let's say, the northwest side, because we have a southeast wind, you could get surge literally from a man-made lake. So it's not just the saltwater flooding. Again, wind is a force, and it's forcing those water levels up.
And it just kind of scoops the water, right?
Exactly right. It just scoops up the water.
A lot of those man-made lakes are not going to be that deep, so it's not going to be that much of a stretch to scoop that water and push it.
Exactly right.
Okay, so from here, we're going to, it'll move out, and we're talking, Arcadia, those areas are still going to see some of the most damaging winds to come in the next hour or two, correct, Matt?
That's correct. And I tell you what, now that we have brought up some other people down the road, let's do a storm cone. I'm maneuvering the radar site here, and next up, let's do a time lapse as it's now starting to move towards Cleveland. Okay, I'm going to put a cone on it. And next up for the eye wall, okay, Babcock Ranch, we had noted that. Time now is about 1:39. I think that 2:14 is a little much, but I think it's going to be even sooner than that. But Arcadia, you're looking at about 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock for the eye wall moving in. I would like, it's been a while since we've done this. I would like to sample some of the wind speeds that are being indicated right now across Southwest Florida, and to do that, I'm going to switch over to what's called the velocity signature. It essentially just detects wind. And let's take a look here, and we literally have, right around Boca Grande, wind speeds just above the surface at 134 miles an hour, and then just south of Sanibel. And this is going to eventually pivot in towards Sanibel, but wind being detected from the radar at 143 miles an hour. And we also have wind in southern Charlotte County, upwards of 80 to 100 miles an hour. And that is what is going to be pushing onshore.
Now, explain again, you've talked a little bit about the relationship between that's a little bit up off the ground and how it perhaps relates to what we see on the surface.
Yeah, the good rule of thumb with a weather radar, the closer that you are to it, the more accurate your information is going to be. And for a while, yes.
Producers, or the booth is asking, are those sustained or gusts, the winds you were measuring?
Those are oftentimes the sustained.
Okay.
Okay, so that's going to be the sustained. The gust potential could very well be even greater than that.
Okay.
Okay.
But in relationship to ground numbers, you were saying...
Oh, yeah, so the closer that you get to a radar, the good rule of thumb, the more accurate your information is going to be. Because there's a small angle and a tilt with a radar, and the farther that you get away from it, you're only seeing the top half of a storm. But if you get closer to a radar, you get to see most, if not the entire thing. And because we have a radar in Babcock Ranch, I am seeing every single bit of this storm, as well as those winds upwards of 150 miles an hour.
Okay, so Matt, do you want to just explain to people who are seeing the worst of this, how long are they going to be hearing this wind? If they are without power right now, they may just be listening to us on the radio and they can't see what you're seeing.
Exactly right. So for those who are potentially out of power and listening to me on radio, the eye wall extends from Babcock Ranch to Pine Island. That is about 20 to 30 miles wide. It is moving to the northeast at 10 miles an hour, meaning the duration of the strong winds will be between 1 to 2 hours. Then the eye itself is about 20 to 30 miles wide. When that passes by, which right now stretches from Boca Grande to Sanibel, once that passes by, you could even see slivers of sun in between all the clouds. That is when the winds will calm down, but you are not done. You're only at halftime. Then, and by the way, please don't venture out. I know the weather, you're thinking, hey, it's a break, I'm about to be done. You are not even close to done, because then we have the other eye wall that will be rotating around. Same deal, that one is about 1 to 2 hours of intense wind, winds gusting over 100 miles an hour. So combined, The eye event itself, with eye and eye wall, is about 6 hours long.
Okay.
And that's because it's moving at 10 miles an hour.
Right. And there's no chance of forward speed changing, really. It's going to stick close to that forward speed for the duration of the storm.
It's been very consistent. We're looking at about 9, 10, 11 miles an hour.
Okay.
You know, and if anything, it actually could come down a mile or two from its current pace. So,
right.
But that's the general range, and it won't speed up, unfortunately.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so that's good barometer for, depending on where you are and when it all started, where you are, gives you an idea of what you're going to go through. We're all kind of going through the same thing, one after the other as it moves south to north. For the downtown Fort Myers, we've been in this about 20 minutes, a half hour. So we're just getting started. That means a lot of folks in Cape Coral are at the beginning part of their dealing with this. Along Fort Myers, down the McGregor corridor, same thing. And some of the areas directly inland of that. That's why we're showing you the Doppler here, so that you can always kind of have an idea of where you are in relation to the process, but you can kind of look at that whole donut, if you will, as a 6-hour process and kind of figure out where you are in relation to it as it moves.
Yeah.
You know, Chris and Lois, I just drew this line on here because essentially when the National Hurricane Center classifies landfall, it's that line as it moves on Captiva, Sanibel.
Okay.
Once that moves on shore, there's your official landfall.
Okay.
Which
So
should be
it's
here
not
shortly.
when you first hit the eye. It's right in that center.
Right in the middle.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Okay, so we're still waiting for that. Right now, a large portion of Sanibel seeing a little bit of a break. Parts of Captiva seeing a little bit of a break. They are in the eye right now, but not into that center of the eye yet. Matt's going to be going over to his computer equipment to get a little more data. In the meantime, you can see all those yellows and reds on the radar. That is the eye wall. That is devastating weather. We're seeing it in downtown Fort Myers right now. We're seeing it in Cape Coral. Estero, you're seeing some of that. Bonita Springs, you're seeing some of that as well, all the way up to Boca Grande now, still seeing some nasty weather and part of it. Yeah.
And you can use that. You don't certainly want to go outside when you get into the calm in the middle of the storm, but you can take a breath and realize you're halfway done, and you know you're getting closer. So this is where we are at 1:45 on this. Lost track of what day of the week it is.
Wednesday.
Me too.
Right.
It's Wednesday.
Yep. Oh, look at that. One car, mile marker 119, I-75 south, just between Bonita Beach Road and Corkscrew, kind of right in the middle of them. I don't know what he or she is doing out there, but that's just a really bad idea. Thankfully, there's no one else to see as far as we can tell, but look at the camera shake.
No, yeah, even in a low-profile vehicle, the winds that we are experiencing are very, very devastating. That's just a foolhardy thing to do.
And any flying thing can smash your windshield.
And we saw that camera going left and right. That is the eye wall. So
Yes.
the eye wall just moved into Bonita, and that's why the camera was going left and right.
Okay, this is Fowler and Hanson Street. Camera a little askew
At an
here.
angle, right.
Yeah, but that gives you, that's right in the center part of the city of Fort Myers. And you can see how the winds, that camera looks like it might be a little protected there, but it's hard to exactly say, but you can see the traffic light there to give you some idea of how high up that camera is. And nobody on the, no,
there you
just
go.
when I said no one on the road, there someone
Always has to
goes.
be one.
Really not a very safe thing to do right now. Please, please stay locked down in your sheltered space. Don't do that. We don't want to be reporting on people out in this weather and being injured or hurt.
All right, let's check in now and go back to Punta Gorda Fisherman's Village. We're still seeing boats pretty much on the dirt. You know, this is, again, the next step. The water's certainly going to come up there, but if you didn't get a look earlier at some of the parts south where the water went out, this is what happens first, the reverse surge as the water pulls out.
Yeah, much of Southwest Florida didn't see, this is the most dramatic reverse surge we've seen here in Southwest Florida, but now we don't have pictures and cameras at every single location, so we may learn later that there were some areas that saw a lot of water being pulled out. We know farther north of us in Tampa, there are a lot of pictures of the water just being completely sucked out because they're that much further north of the eye. But Matt Devitt is now ready for us. He's got some new information he wants to pass along to you.
Yeah, I do have some new info. I want to talk about tide levels. Right now, the tide levels are 2 feet above normal and rising in Fort Myers, and literally the slope is like this. So it's going up fast. And then in Naples, it looks like the plateau has now started to climb a little bit again. So Naples right now is checking in, doing some quick math. It's about six 6.3 above normal. The water levels are about 6.3 feet above normal in Naples. Their forecast for surge was about 8 to 12 feet. Let's hope we don't reach those levels. But right now we're at about 6 feet above forecasted and above normal. Let's go to radar. Let's do another tour here of who is seeing the worst part of the storm. And this is going to be the tornado-like winds. So now is the time, if you haven't already done so, please, no driving around, no observing. Treat it like a 6-hour tornado. I know it's a long time, but it right now is moving at 10 miles an hour. This is a longer duration event. There's the beginning of the tornado-like winds, and there's the end. For this duration, no going outside. Treat it like a tornado, as we could see wind gusts in excess of 155 miles an hour. Here's going to be the eye, and the eye is approaching its eventual landfall, I would say within the next 30 to 90 minutes, if not sooner. But there it is. It continues to blow by. I have been getting some wind gusts. Southwest Florida International was in the 80s, if not approaching 90 when that blew by. So this is a history, even here, of 90-mile-per-hour winds, and that's going to rotate around the storm. Very heavy rainfall, lightning with this Category 4 storm. Let's analyze some of the wind speeds that are right now pushing on shore with WINK Live Doppler 3X. And some of the pretty significant winds have been observed around Boca Grande. There's a 139. Let's do another sample. 125. And then near and south of Sanibel, 159 miles an hour reported just above the surface. And then let's do another observation on Sanibel, 136 miles an hour with the eye wall. Let's switch back over to radar, and I'll fill this in a little bit more. So that is some of the winds that is right now circulating around the storm, but this is the worst part. And I want to time this out once again for some of my inland friends that are watching me very closely around DeSoto County. This is eventually going to be working its way towards you, as well as Babcock Ranch. We have seen those wind gusts move in. I live in Babcock Ranch. I won't have to worry about the surge with an elevation of 30 feet, but the wind, absolutely. Happy to report, however, I was driving through the community yesterday. A lot of the shutters were up. People were taking it seriously. And as we time this out, this is going to be working its way towards Arcadia as we still hit about 3:45 to 4 o'clock. So as far as the visible satellite also is concerned, let's take a look at what this looks like, and when the eye moves in, what you could experience. And granted, it's filling in a little bit, but there is no doubt going to be sun on Captiva. How about that? That is a scene you will maybe not even see again in your lifetime. I hope that we do not, where the eye of a major hurricane, a Category 4, with the sun peeking out. This is going to be passing by Pine Island and Northwest Cape, but first up is going to be Captiva, where you will be in the eye of the storm with the eye coming out and the sun coming out as well. Let's do a sampling of some of the general wind speeds. The gusts have been even higher than this, and yeah, even this is probably undersampling it, as we are sustained in the 60s for Sanibel, 50s for Bonita. Keep in mind that if you see some holes in the data, anemometers are really struggling with this one. They either lose connection, they get snapped in half. Sometimes it can be very difficult to get accurate wind readings with a major hurricane. And as far as some of the conditions are concerned, I'd be curious to see some of the water levels around Matt Lachey, and it looks like we did lose some data with that time lapse. And again, that's another thing that we're going to be losing here is the connectivity with a lot of our cameras. So one more thing I want to do, and then I'll join Chris and Lois, is to just show you essentially the diameter of the strongest wind, because that'll tell you how long we can expect it for. And I'm going to stop this and measure that this is going to essentially be from east to west. The first round is about 25 miles wide. So that's about a 1 to 2 hour strong wind event. Then you get a break for about an hour or two in the eye, but then you're not done. This one means business. It has been popping up very strong on our radar with winds easily over 130, if not approaching 150 miles an hour. That's offshore. We also have lightning with it. And this one, the width of it is about 20 to 22 miles wide. So just pace yourself. It's going to be a long 6 hours. This is a type of wind that is going to have many of us without power for weeks. We were without power for 2 to 3 weeks from Marco Island to Lehigh Acres during Irma in 2017. I expect something similar to our duration, if not longer. So if you still have power, now is the time to crank down the AC inside of your home, because we want to benefit from that cool air as long as possible. And then we also, I'm going to throw on radar here, we also want to try to charge your phone and every electronic appliance that you have for as long as you can, because we don't know the last time or the next time that we're going to be able to charge it. So lower the AC, charge everything you got, because it could be a long time before we have power once again. Chris, Lois, back to you.
All right, Matt, thanks very much. We have someone on the phone to talk about that, because we are hearing from all over the place, the power's going out, the power's going out. Folks lucky to have a generator are on generator. We have Keith on the phone from Cape Coral right now to talk to us about power outages. First of all, Keith, thanks. Keith, darling, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How are y'all doing?
We're good. We're happy to hear from you. Can you tell us how your area is faring right now?
Oh, it's real exciting. It's almost like being at Disney World. No, right now, probably about 20 minutes ago, it sounded like a bomb went off, and this huge blast of wind came through, and we lost power. And we had kept it all this time. And my screens went out on the back porch, and power went out, and had to hook up the generator real quick to get the fridge going and other things going that we needed around the house.
Keith, for the benefit, for the benefit
I'm sorry, go ahead.
For the benefit of your neighbors, can you be specific about where you are in the Cape so they can understand your experience there?
I am off of the very north end of Santa Barbara Boulevard between Kismet and Wellington, near Jacaranda and Douglas Parkway.
Okay.
Okay. And can you tell, other than what you've heard, how the houses that are nearby you are doing? I know that you've heard this recently. How long have you been in the really strong wind? Golly, really strong wind actually kind of started kicking up last night. And I got up, I want to say maybe about 3:30 this morning, and things were definitely going. And I've been up since about 3:30 this morning. So probably, going on 11, 12 hours in our part of the Cape.
But have you noticed now that you're in that eye wall? Have you noticed a real?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It is a massive change, and it was about the time that outer eye, not the main eye, but the outer eye around it, that has the more powerful storms before the eye, it closed up immediately when I got that huge wind gust that knocked out the power. And it was just at that second that it made a complete circle full of the full storm. That it literally sounded like a bomb, not a freight train. and everything just went out.
Could be transformers blowing. You don't know.
No, it didn't. No, it definitely wasn't a transformer.
Okay.
I mean, it. Unfortunately, I'm used to my transformer blowing at my house about every year during rainy season, so I know what that sounds like. No, it was just such a huge gust of wind that broke a couple trees in my front yard, and then the power went out, the screens went out, and it was a little scary there for a second.
I can only imagine. Keith, how is your house protected that you're able to see these things? How did you protect your home from the tropical weather?
Well, I do have shutters up on everything but my sliding glass doors. I have a fairly large back porch, and I do have shutters up on every other window around the house other than the sliding glass doors, because that's where I have my generator, is out on my big back porch. And it's chained up and locked and everything, and so I had to be able to access it.
Okay.
All right. Well,
And
certainly thank you for sharing your experience with us. Hopefully we can figure out what that big sound was at some point that knocked your power out.
I mean, it was almost like a sonic boom.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
that's what I would say it sounded like. It literally sounded like a sonic boom from when, like, the shuttle used to land.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And so that's the best way I could describe it.
Well, Keith, thank you so much for being our eyes and ears in that part of Cape Coral. We appreciate you, and please stay safe. Best of luck to you moving forward.
Thank you very much, and thank y'all very much for all the work y'all have been doing. My TV has stayed on Wink for the past 2 days, watching you guys. So thank y'all for what y'all are doing.
We appreciate that, and I'll make sure to pass that along to everybody who's working really hard to bring all this stuff on TV. Thank you for that.
Definitely. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
You too, Keith. Thank you.
Stay safe.
I want to check
You
in
too.
with Rachel Cox-Rosen now, who's monitoring these power outages for us throughout the area.
Chris, we're seeing a lot. I want to take you through every region so everyone can see what their area is looking like. We're starting with Florida Power and Light, FPL. This is their outage map. Let's start in Collier County. They're seeing about 35,000 outages right now. Now let's go up to Lee County. Up there, about 18,000 out. Let's go over to Hendry County. Right now, no customers are reported out in Hendry County. Up in Charlotte County, about 7,750. Now, I also want to show you LCEC's map. They have some really good interactive tools. If you go to this website, if you're able to outage.lcec.net, you'll be able to see really specific data about your area. So we're going to start by looking by county. Again, Collier County, percentage of their customers out, 37%. You can see the majority of that. You see those red dots there? That's Marco Island, and a little bit up in Immokalee too, and then a little bit north of the Golden Gate Estates area. Now up in Lee County, 54% of their customers are out. As you can see, it's really concentrated in that Cape Coral area, also that Lehigh Acres area. I want to change this a little bit so we can focus more on specific regions. So again, Marco Island seeing a lot of outages. 55% of Marco Island seeing outages right now. Up in Immokalee, 17% seeing outages, about 2,000 people there. Up in Lehigh Acres, 771 seeing outages. Only actually 2% of customers there. Now let's look at Cape Coral. This is the region that you're seeing the most outages right now. In Cape Coral's northwest region, 87% of people are out of power. Now looking up at a different region of Cape Coral, Nicole, would you be able to read for me exactly what that says, what part of Cape Coral that is?
Which one? Right here?
The one I'm clicked on right now.
That's North Fort Myers West.
Okay, North Fort Myers, 53% of people are out with 17,000 customers out there. Now let's look at Pine Island. Almost 100% of Pine Island out of power right now. And as you can see, it's even hard to click on some of these because these circles are so big. Southwest Cape Coral, 59% are out right now with 19,000 people. So you can see the majority of those outages are in that region. So just again, if you are curious about this really good interactive map, outage.map.lcec.net, and we'll keep you updated with these outages. And just have patience. The governor spoke this morning about that. We're going to be seeing millions of outages, he said, over the next 48 hours in the state. And there are power companies, FPL, LCE, CE, working to get power back on. But you might need patience. Matt talked about it earlier. It might be a really long time before you see power again. So just stay safe, use patience, and we'll keep you updated.
All right, thank you, Rachel. So many power crews from all across the country are stationed here in our area already. They're hunkered down now. They're not going anywhere to start restoring power until it is safe to do so. But your power will be coming back. Let's go to Pine Island Road right now and Del Prado to give you an idea of what's happening in a major section of Cape Coral right now. Keith is the guy we were talking to. He was in the North Cape. We're hearing about all the outages there. Now you're seeing some of the roadways in a major corridor, Pine Island Road and Del Prado in Cape Coral. Cape Coral really going through it right now, Matt.
They are. I just got a wind gust in South Cape, Tarpon Point, Cape Coral Yacht Club, 100 miles an hour.
Oh. Wow.
I also got another wind gust, Punta Gorda Airport, 105 miles an hour. So that was just recorded at the airport. And that is not even the secondary eye wall.
Okay.
And I think the main thing, thank you, Greg, I just got a confirmed?
Yes.
Okay, just got a wind gust to 126 miles an hour on Captiva. That was very likely when the eye wall was initially working its way through. So 126 for Captiva. We noted the Punta Gorda at 105. Earlier, we also had near Pelican Bay, 112, 113. So hurricane force winds, but I believe right now, especially for us in Fort Myers, North Fort Myers and the Cape, right now we're getting slammed with primarily the wind event. But then the worst part is after the eye, it's the combo of the wind and the surge.
Yeah.
We start to see more of the surge event once we get that wind to change direction and push the water up the river.
And hold that thought and stay with us because we have someone on the phone in Naples who's dealing with rising water still. John, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, John, tell us what part of Naples you're in first.
Hamilton Harbor.
Okay.
So East Naples.
East Naples. And how high is the water?
Well, it's up to the bottom of our mailboxes now, actually going up over the middle of our mailboxes as we speak.
Okay, so just to confirm, you're south of 41.
We're south of 41.
Okay, so you're in the area, the first zone to be evacuated, but you're still in your home?
Yeah, we have a 2-story, so we're upstairs.
Okay, so they're doing the vertical evacuation we often talk about when you're in those low-lying areas. When the water starts to come in, you go upstairs. You and your family are fine, and your neighbors, do you have any idea?
Most of my neighbors left because they are all in single stories, but anyone I heard news, a couple people on our street are still here, but they got elevated homes as well.
Okay, and how fast have you seen that water come up from ground level up to where it is now?
In the last 2 hours, it rose from absolutely clear to our mailboxes, so 2.5 feet.
Okay.
Does it seem to you, from what you can tell right now, that it's still rising, or is it kind of plateaued?
No, it's still rising. It's a torrent down our street.
Have you ever seen anything like that in the area you are? Because you are in a lower-lying area of Collier County.
During Irma, we had it stopped the middle of our driveway. So it's never been this high. I mean, my downstairs stairs, I've got 2 stairs underwater as we speak.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was just going to ask you the difference between where it is at your mailbox and is it in your lower level of your home? It is in the lower level of your home.
It is.
Okay.
So sorry to hear that, John. Really sorry to hear that. You're doing the right thing being up in your second story. We really hope that the storm surge doesn't get much worse there. Matt, can you give him any indication in that part of Collier County?
And John, stay safe for me. I'm Matt Devitt here. The tide levels are about 6 feet above normal, and there's still a small climb, as I've noted, probably the past 30 to 60 minutes. So hang on there. Now, the high tide for you, we are approaching it, so that's why you're continuing to see that climb. And then as we go into this evening, your tide levels will start to lower as we also will be approaching low tide. So essentially, you are approaching the worst part of it at the moment. Just be safe And I know you're going to be continuing with the updates here on WINK.
All right,
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, and stay safe and protect your family.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you hate to hear about that, but that's the type of information that other people who are south of 41 or west of 41 in Naples and Collier County can benefit from, to see what someone in a 2-story home is already seeing in their home, or if they're watching us from, they evacuated
Right.
and they're wondering about their area. It gives them some picture in their head about how devastating the storm surge is for them right now.
And we had always noted the computer model showing this possibility of that water level rise. And I think for a lot of people, this is the first time seeing that in reality.
Oh, yeah.
And because this is the worst case scenario of a Cat 4, almost 5, and the motion around it is in our worst and most vulnerable spot of our coastline, and bringing up our tides.
Yeah, I mean, because he gave us the comparison. He said during Irma it was halfway up his driveway. Now it's into the first level of his home, up 2 stairs. So
I think a lot of people are seeing things today that no matter how long you've been here, you've never seen before. And I really fear that when it's done and we're going to assess the damage, a lot of people are also going to see things that they've never seen before in terms of damage to buildings, damage to structures, things like that. Hopefully not.
okay, we have some new video for you coming from the villas in Fort Myers. So as you look at this video, I understand we also have the person who shot this video for us, Moses. I understand you're on the phone with us. Moses, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you shot this video. Tell us when you took this video, what you were seeing at the time and feeling and hearing.
Roughly about an hour ago, and we were just hearing a lot of popping and a lot of the wind noise, and so we went out because I have a window out the back that we can look out of, and that's when we started noticing that the sparks were coming from the power line, and it was sparking pretty bad.
Has it stopped, hopefully?
Yes, the line finally popped, and it's laying in the backyard, and ever since then the power finally went out.
Okay. So looks like your lanai screens have been ripped out in some spots.
Oh, yes. And storage shed's roof is peeling away, too.
Okay, I was saying, any other damage to your home that we can't see from these pictures, because it looks pretty bad just from what you're showing us?
Yeah. So far, it's the ceiling on the shed is peeling on the way. The neighbor's fence is starting to fall apart, and so the more the winds come, the little by little things are falling apart.
Are you seeing any flooding in your area? We see the rain on the lanai ground there, but we don't. Are you seeing any other flooding?
Not so much. Just a little more than what we usually get during a regular afternoon storm.
Boy. Okay. I mean, Moses, this is very, very important information for us to be able to share, not only with our meteorologists, but with the neighbors in your area. Do you know whether or not people are just hunkered down in their own homes? Have they fortified their homes, and are they staying there? Do you have any idea?
Yes. I have kept in contact with my neighbors. They are all boarded up and have shutters up, and we have been communicating through phone call and through text to make sure each and every one of us are doing fine. And so far, everyone's well.
Oh, that's
Good to hear.
It's really good news to hear.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us. It helps so much to be able to see what different people in different areas are going through, and we appreciate your time, Moses, so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, stay safe.
Okay, South Fort Myers area, Matt, as you know, so they're reporting, like when you see those power lines sparking like that, it could be vegetation flying into the lines, it could be any number of things that are causing that, and then the power goes out.
That's it. And then that's it. And here's the reason why we have all the power outages. Let's punch up Weather 1, and this is the current list of the highest wind gusts. Captiva, 126 miles an hour. Pelican Bay, 112. Punta Rassa, 107. Punta Gorda, 106. Cape Coral, 101. Another observation in Cape Coral, Southwest Cape, 99. So there is 2 confirmed reports of basically 100 miles an hour or greater in the Cape. And then St. James City, 92. Fort Myers International Airport, 83, and then Bonita Springs at 80. So we are seeing widespread hurricane force wind.
You're getting some good wind reports despite how strong this hurricane is. Have you lost any measurements at any point yet?
Well, I also have not gotten many from Sanibel and Captiva. We got very lucky to get that 126, but it's also a connectivity issue, power, because you obviously have to power the sensor. And so that's another thing you got to worry about, the sensor snapping in half from the wind. So to get those observations, oftentimes with technology nowadays compared to 20 years ago, we have a better way to at least read the max winds.
All right, we just want to let you know that RSW has just told us they have canceled all flights for tomorrow, as well as we would predict they probably would, but it's official now, so we're at least through tomorrow before there'll be any flights out.
Right, so anyone who was hoping they were going to bring back planes quickly, that's not going to happen at this point. They're going to keep their crews and all the planes as safe as they can until it's safe to come back here and they can clean up the airport and make everything clear and safe for all airlines.
So where do we stand? Can we pull radar full screen? Because it's different for everybody and it's moving through and people are wanting to know based on what they're hearing, and a lot of people are on radio and can't see us, and perhaps in homes with shutters or boarded up and can't see out. So going through this literally in the dark, locked in your house, can be very difficult. So Matt, if you take us through some of location by location where we are and what we're experiencing and what's next, I think that would help a lot of people.
And Matt, specifically, we're getting questions from Lehigh, LaBelle. They're worried about what's coming. If you could give them some indication of what's going to be in their neighborhood.
Absolutely, I would be more than happy to. So here's the eye as it is right now in the process of approaching landfall. As we zoom on in, that is going to be primarily Sanibel and all the way towards Boca Grande, but more than likely this is going to be making a landfall around North Captiva. Now, the reason why I bring that up is I want to show you where this storm has come from and then where it is going to be heading. And as we zoom in a little bit more, you can see the eye wall. And what I'm going to do now is take that eye wall and show which areas have the potential for wind gusts over 100 miles an hour, which this eye wall does have a history of bringing to parts of Southwest Florida. So as we extrapolate that out, okay, and then I'm going to do this area as well to the northeast. This corridor is going to see the strongest wind. So that includes essentially Bonita Springs and north, all of Sanibel, Cape Coral, Fort Myers Shores, Babcock Ranch, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Northport, Englewood, Rotunda. But then we just got the question about Lehigh Acres. What's the situation for Lehigh Acres? And Lehigh Acres certainly could get brushed with the southern periphery of this eye wall as it moves inland over the next couple of hours. So I do want to give a timing for Lehigh Acres, and it looks like for them, that eye wall is very close. It is almost there. And let's zoom on in. And to actually Lehigh Acres within the next, I would say 10 to 15 minutes, an extension of the eye wall, this band right here, there's your primary eye wall, but you could see a quick burst of wind and heavy rain, which is right now visiting Southwest Florida International. They had a wind gust to 82 miles an hour. So that could be a little foreshadowing to what is rotating around and heading to Lehigh Acres. But I'll time it out for you just in case. And as we do a storm cone on it, that would be heading to Lehigh Acres. So time now is about 2:15. 2:50 the latest, if not sooner, as we start to see those bands of rain and wind continuing to circulate around the core. The radar is also, in addition to analyzing heavy rain, it also is picking up on wind. And the wind speeds right now, especially on the northern side of the eye. So here's going to be the eye, and that's where the wind is quiet. And you can literally see a lack of colors. That's because there's no wind being picked up on radar, and that's where the sun is even peeking through sections of Captiva. But I want to sample some of this pink and also darker brown, as well as some winds aloft for Sanibel. Let's do a quick sampling as to what could make its way down towards the surface. And it looks like we have some winds of 141, 103. This one was legit. We had Punta Gorda Airport hit 105 miles an hour just a bit ago. Now we'll go into Lee County. Very close to Sanibel, we have winds of 150 miles an hour just offshore, and that's going to be rotating around Ian as it makes that trek inland and to the north and northeast. Heads up in Cape Coral. Just above the ground, we have winds of about 134 miles an hour that will be rotating around and heading into the western side of Cape Coral. So first up, Southwest Cape, and then eventually Northwest Cape, and then that will start to rotate around towards Boca Grande as well as Rotunda. So those are the hardest hit at the moment. We also have some pretty significant wind being picked up about 92 miles an hour. Estero Bay, Coconut Point Mall, and for the heart of Estero. And this will continue, folks. I do want to show you the status of the eye as it is approaching our coastline. This is the visible satellite imagery, and it looks like we are starting to see, yeah, how about that, Chris and Lois? We are starting to see some breaks in the clouds, and don't be surprised to see some slivers of sun. And if you see a picture of that sun, by that point, we would be temporarily done with the worst part of the storm. Do not go outside. Don't go outside, but you can maybe take out you can pull down a shade if you don't have hurricane shutters up, and just take a picture from inside to outside showing that sun, which could be peeking through essentially from North Captiva to the northern half of Pine Island. But be safe for me. That's the eye, and then we get hit with round number 2, and that's going to be the outer eye wall, which is heading in the general direction northeast, and that's where we see that secondary round of winds over 100 miles an hour. Guys?
All right. Thank you very much, Matt. We're going to look at our tower cam right now in downtown Fort Myers. We're experiencing some severe weather here right now, and we want you to take a look at it with us. You see those high-rise buildings that are on the waterfront right on Palm Beach Boulevard. And as we pan over, you can see the river behind it. You can see the bridges in the background there, although it's harder and harder to see with the heavy rain. But now you're looking straight toward downtown Fort Myers, where we are seeing some very, very heavy winds and heavy rain, and expecting rising storm surge as well.
Yeah, really can hear it. I think we have a look at the Edison Bridge as well. Well, as best as we can through all the wind and the rain. You can see that debris. Last time we was there, we looked at this shot a while ago. There was a lot of debris on the road. There still is, of course. You can really see the trees moving, even though a little bit of that is probably the image coming in as well. But clearly, if you focus on the lower left of your screen, that tree, you can get an idea of how much wind we're seeing downtown here in Fort Myers.
And we're gonna take a look at Charlotte County too. Matt has some new information for you.
Yeah, I really want to focus in right now on Charlotte County. If it's getting loud outside, you're hearing these howls of wind. And this is the live shot from Fisherman's Village as the water is still getting sucked out, literally with winds upwards of 105 miles an hour. The water is getting sucked out in the opposite direction. Now, the problem is once we go deeper into this evening, that water is going to come right back up. And that water could be at least 8 feet when it does so. Now, I want to show you on WINK Live Doppler 3X, weather 2 in the back. And this is the northern and eastern portion of the eye wall. This is literally one of the worst parts of the storm. And it is right now filtering in for Charlotte County, Pirate Harbor, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Cleveland, Deep Creek. Where you see that swath of red, that is where it means business. And it's about 20 to 30 miles wide as it is circulating around Ian. And if you haven't done so already, we got to treat it like a tornado, as we've had multiple reports of winds over 100 miles an hour. And that is going to continue for a while, guys. I mean, we're going to get a break for a bit with the eye, but that will continue to circulate around. And the problem is, look at the intensity of the rain, the color. That heavy rainfall is going to lead to, in addition to the the saltwater flooding, also the freshwater flooding, the heavy rain. Look at Englewood, look at Rotunda. As this continues to move northeast, you will see heavy rain for a long duration of time, where a foot of rain is going to be possible after it's all said and done. So just be safe for me, Charlotte County. We're thinking of you, just like Lee and Collier County. as well as all of Southwest Florida as a whole. And what's going to happen is once this eye wall continues to push inland, then we start to focus even more in greater attention to DeSoto County, to Glades County, Hendry County. We're not going to leave anybody out. We want to highlight every single part of our area so that you know exactly what's coming up next.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. We're going to go down to Vanderbilt Beach in Collier County to Taylor Wirtz, who has been experiencing the conditions there. Taylor, tell us what you're seeing.
Lois, honestly, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what's going on right now because it is so unbelievable. If you take a look behind me, this whole bay, there is a dumpster just floating by like a log through the water. You can see the roof about to be ripped off. There are several boats. I don't know if you can see any of those just floating off in the distance. These boats that we showed you yesterday were tied up probably at least 5 feet above the pier. They are just floating. No one on them, just floating aimlessly through the water. There's a whole rack of kayaks that washed up and paddleboards. Have no idea where it came from. Another resort, another home, and it's just been bobbing up and down right in front of us. Our news cars that we drove to get here are completely underwater. They are buried. So this situation, we've all been sitting inside just trying to compartmentalize, and I honestly think that's the only way. You just have to right now be concerned about your immediate safety because you cannot even begin to look around you and process what's going on. I also have some video, if we can pull that up, of this floating, looks like could have been a refrigerator, some sort of construction storage unit type thing that was at least the size of this balcony, just bobbing up and down in the water. There is no telling how much that weighs or how big it is. So that just begins to paint a picture of what it's like out here. Yes, the conditions are bad, but now we are seeing the effects of that storm surge, and safety is clearly the name of the game. So we're going to stay on this balcony and stay safe, and I urge everybody and plead with everybody else to do the same. Live in Naples, Taylor Wirtz, WINK News.
All right, Taylor, thank you very much. And just looking at the water behind her there, a couple of things came in while she was there. One, from CETO, getting calls already about boats that have broken off or floating down canals, floating down canals in Cape Coral. Obviously not something they can do anything about right now, but letting us know that. And one woman, loyal viewer in South Fort Myers, a moment of perhaps a little bit of levity, but also shows you how serious it is. House is shaking so bad, she says, I have storm surge in the toilet.
Oh, it's awful.
Because the water's going back and forth.
We want to go back to Charlotte County and specifically to Zach Oliveri, who's been at the Charlotte EOC. Zach, we're just hearing how tough the weather is getting there. What are the emergency managers telling you?
Lois, we will have an update on where exactly we stand right now in Charlotte County coming up at 3 p.m. But about an hour ago, they did close the shutters here on the front door. This was our only way to look out and see what the storm looks like. Now we can only hear what the storm is like out there. And I can tell you, me and my photographer have been out here waiting for about 20 minutes. You could just hear the sheer force of the wind, the rattling of the shutters. It just keeps going back and forth. It's the sound is something like it sounds super intense, almost like we're in a wind tunnel, and the shutters are doing as much as they can to keep that force outside and keep us safe inside the EOC. And like I said, we will have an update on where things stand in Charlotte County coming up at 3 p.m. Live in Charlotte County, Zach Oliveri, WINK News.
All right, Zach, what you're describing is what a lot of people describe in these types of storms. It is an eerie, scary sound. The only thing you can tell people is we're all going through it, and we're going to make it through this, and we won't leave you. We'll be here with you through the whole thing.
It's like we all have to go through it alone but together.
That's right.
Because so many people are in their homes either by themselves or without any real knowledge of what's even going on down the street. And I know not as bad for folks who got out of the area, and glad you did for a while, but are wondering about people here. So it's just mentally very, very difficult. As we talk about all the physical difficulties, we want to acknowledge that it's a struggle at times to just stay calm and wait it out, which is what we have to do right now, and we will help you do that in any way that we can.
And we can't wait until we'll be happy to hear what they have to say at 3 o'clock because we're in the daylight hours. Perhaps they have some real wind and damage reports or what they want to let people who are living in Charlotte County know. We want to show you some live pictures right now from Marco Island as well. Remember, we've been watching the surge there, and it's very difficult to see right now exactly what is happening there. But this is the same view that we had earlier, where we saw those tiki huts on the beach, and the water was coming up, and it's
hard to tell if they're just gone or if the water came up and they're underwater. It almost looks like they're gone.
Yeah. We can't see them from this vantage point right now. We maybe have to wait till we get a clearer picture. But Marco Island should be seeing water not going any higher, right? It should be actually
I mean, we are approaching
stabilizing
their peak and their high tide. So in theory, it should slowly start to lower. Now, the rate in which it lowers, Ian's going to slow that down.
Right.
But it's right now essentially peaking in its water level. I do have an update in Collier County, and this is an interesting observation. 105 mile an hour wind gusts at Naples Airport.
Okay.
And that is an area that wasn't even impacted by the worst part of the eye wall. And they hit 105.
Wow.
So just in 105 mile an hour wind in Naples at the airport.
All right. Thank you very much, Matt. We're going to go to Celine MacArthur right now, who is at the Sanibel Harbor Resort right along the mainland side of the causeway. Celine, how are conditions for you?
Hello, everyone. I'm Celine MacArthur with Wink News. Right now, we're in Fort Myers, right across the bridge from Sanibel Island. We are just east of the eye of the storm, and I wanted to give you a look at Hurricane Ian. This is what 140 to 160 mile an hour winds looks like, sounds like, and feels like. Just a little while ago, just minutes ago, I shot video of a reporter standing right next to the pool doing a live report. That is dangerous. I recorded it so you can see perspective, get some perspective of what it would be like if you were standing in this. But I had to stop recording. I wanted to go find him because there was a pool sign, a metal pool sign that looked like it was going to rip off the fence and hit him. And projectiles are extremely dangerous in conditions like this. Now, right now, the power is out in the hotel where we're staying. And the big mission here is to fortify this building. There are a lot of windows. Some of them are broken. So right now it's about locking everything down and staying safe. As you take a last look right now at Hurricane Ian, we're going to go back inside. We're going to get you another vantage point, and we're going to get you some more information. But remember, these are not the conditions you want to be outside in, getting video or looking at your house or checking on your friends and family. All right. For now, reporting for Wink News, I'm Celine MacArthur. Back to you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Celine. You see it, the wind's really blowing there.
Really picking up. I'm glad she's going inside, and we'll get her, make sure she's safe. These are live pictures now. This is our tower cam from our station, so a vantage point kind of straight down toward Billy Creek in the Dean Park neighborhood right behind us as we monitor. A little calmer for the moment with the wind, but just as we were listening to Celine, it was really loud here. We had some really strong gusts of wind and bursts of wind, but we're keeping our eye on downtown Fort Myers, when we're going through quite a bit of it right now.
This is also a great place to watch the water on Billy Creek there, because it leads right into the river, so you can see the water rise oftentimes along the creek there. You can see it. We're still seeing a lot of the lawns across the creek, and we're still seeing some of the docks, so we know that we're in a pretty good situation here in terms of surge at this point, but we know it's going to be rising.
Go ahead.
Ben Hill Griffin and Corkscrew. You see the big intersection there. You can't really tell. I don't see any power to any of the traffic lights.
No, it looks like they're out. It looks like there was a little piece of debris kind of going across the road, but this is right near FGCU. And there are students sheltering in place at FGCU, so good to know that area looks reasonably good for now. And we're certainly keeping our eye on all of the different neighborhoods and areas as we get new information.
Although, as we look at the radar, they are dealing with some of these bands coming through. So they're going to have some moments of time when they see some pretty heavy wind and heavy rain, as they have been seeing for a little while now. So if you're in Estero, you can see right now. If you're watching on TV, you can see those bands coming through. If you're on the radio, that the hurricane is still spinning here, and still moving through Bonita Springs, Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, Charlotte County. Matt, I know you're standing by. It really looks like they have some intense storms there right now.
You're exactly right. They are really getting slammed right now. Northeastern quadrant of the eye wall, most intense part. I do want to take this opportunity. I want to make sure everybody is in the loop with what's going on. I'm going to take you county by county. So first we'll start with Arcadia in DeSoto County. So first with you guys, we have, I'm going to do the measuring tool. You are about, in reference to the eye wall, you're about 18 miles away, okay? So as we do a storm cone to let you know when you can expect it, I'm going to stop the loop and I'll time it out for you. And this is when I am expecting the eye wall to fill in towards Arcadia. Okay, so next up, Deep Creek at 2:34, Nocatee, 4 o'clock, right on the money, Arcadia, 4:26, and then Joshua just after 5 o'clock. Okay, now let's go into Charlotte County. Into Charlotte County, it is particularly bad right now. This is some rough stuff and some of the worst weather that we've had in years across particularly Charlotte County. I mean, we'll have to see the winds after it's all said and done, but this certainly could rival Charlie, if not have wind gusts even greater. The highest wind gusts I've officially received so far, Punta Gorda Airport, 105 miles an hour. Note the motion around as it's pivoting and eventually heading to South Venice and Englewood. Let's take you city by city and take you street level. And for reference, there's going to be Northport, El Jobin, Murdoch, right along 776. It is absolutely coming down. And if we could, embedded within this, can we punch up the Punta Gorda camera from Fisherman's Village so that way I can give you a visual as to what is going on. And there it is. You have the palm trees whipping left and right. The tide levels, there was one point about an hour or two ago, those boats were on the dry bed. Now we're going to start to see gradually the water levels rise, but look at the visibility. I mean, we're talking about a quarter to a half of a mile. Not much to see for my radio listeners at the moment. Thank you so much, Greg. You can see him panning around, showing all the palm trees whipping around left and right. Wind gusts over 100 miles an hour, certainly possible, as we also do have water level rise. And we're starting to see that increase in Charlotte County, but we're also starting to see it into Lee County, a particularly strong part of the eye wall. Let's zoom on in. Right now, slamming Island Coast High School as well as Diplomat Elementary. It's going to be getting loud outside. In addition to that, lightning, thunder, Diplomat Elementary. Let's take you down to Mariner High School, where winds have been reported upwards of 100 miles an hour with this eye wall. Pine Island Road, heavy rainfall, as well as other wind reports of 100 miles an hour in South Cape. That has already been observed, as this eye wall is also bringing heavy rainfall, blinding conditions, as we take you also to North Fort Myers and downtown Fort Myers as well. The water levels are increasing in Fort Myers. I now do have surge levels and tide levels, let's go with that, about 3 feet above where they should be, and that is because of Ian. Now let's take you down into Collier County as the bands of rain continue to spiral around the storm. I'm going to take off this area of green. That is a flood advisory. I had a recent wind gust to 105 miles an hour, and what is interesting to note about that is that we have the eye and the eye wall to the north, the worst part of the storm, not even near Naples, and they had a wind gust to 105 miles an hour. And then for our final stop, Lake Okeechobee, spotty showers for now, but your worst weather is going to be later on into the evening. As Chris and Lois, we are getting very close to landfall for North Captiva, with literally within the next 15 to 30 minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. And we're going to go just south of there to Punta Rassa. We want to show you some video that has just come in looking toward Sanibel so that we can show you what people are seeing there along Punta Rassa. This gives you a real idea of how high that water has risen, the surge, just devastating to this part of the mainland side of the Sanibel Causeway.
And take a look. Some of that this is from the Marriott Hotel. Looks like some of that, based on that railing that came out, might have been the pool area, which, if you remember from Charlie, if you ran from Charlie, that area all flooded during Charlie, took out their swimming pool. So this is a new pool since then, and that looks like the pool area to me, based on what I remember of it, of the hotel there.
And when you see those shutters that are on that building flapping, then when the water can get in there, that can be devastating to those buildings. Can look at the floating. It looks like a dock maybe. I don't believe that's a floating dock. I believe it's broken away perhaps, or about to break away. It's hard to tell exactly. But when you see those shutters like that flapping in the wind like that, when the wind can get in there, sometimes that can really devastate the roof, pull it off, blow it off. We'll have to keep an eye on that, because while they will go through a period of calm weather, there's still more devastating weather to come.
And it's a definite indication that the water is still rising in a lot of places, and a lot of places haven't even started to see their water beginning to rise. I believe Rachel Cox-Rosen is working on some new video for us, putting together some new video. We'll have her here in just a second, but we have a lot of new video coming in that we want to share with you, so she has some to show us right now. Rachel.
Absolutely, Chris. This is from Fort Myers Beach. It's really shocking. I really want to let you all see it. You can see just tons of flood water and tons of debris floating in there, what looks like furniture. There is a car completely submerged. You can only see the top of it. Again, those really strong winds coming in. This looks like somebody's home, hotel. We're not sure exactly, we can't pinpoint exactly where on Fort Myers Beach this is, but really scary video there. And we've been seeing video like this on Fort Myers Beach all morning, just even clothing floating there, little pieces of what looks like structures as well, all sorts of debris and mess in that area on Fort Myers Beach right now. Really getting hit hard, you guys.
Yeah, the salt water, too, coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, it's devastating, corrosive, and it's going to cause a lot of problems for the beach. It's going to be quite a recovery for them after this storm passes.
Absolutely, in so many different areas. We'll bring Matt back in right now with kind of the status of where we are.
Well, and I'm sure I'm not the only one seeing that video and thinking, this is where we live.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely amazing, just the raw power of the storm, and why before it we couldn't stress enough the seriousness of the situation. And I still want to reinforce the theme here of pace yourself. We still have to go through about another 60% of the storm. We've done about 30 to 40% depending on your location, but we still have the eye, and then we have the secondary eye wall, which is still fairly significant. Now, as this does push on shore, the pressures will start to rise, and the maximum wind speed will come down a touch, but it will be growing in size and its wind field even more. So it is still by no means going to be a picnic, and it is going to be rough for the secondary part of the storm, which will last for about 2 to 3 hours, that secondary eye wall and the worst part.
Yeah, we have a lot to go, and we just pray everyone stays safe where they are. Please be safe. And again, you're saying Charlotte County is really getting it at the top of the hour. We're expecting some updates from the Charlotte County EOC. We'll make sure that we get those to you when that happens. But let's go right now to Nicole Gabe, who's got some brand new video to show us.
Yeah, exactly. So this is video from social media right here, from Twitter. Dave right here, he is a freelancer reporter with CBS. He said his friend sent him this video out of Naples. You see the roof completely gone, rip off right here. And you talked about, Matt, Lois, and Chris, this is our home, Southwest Florida. This is someone's home right here. The roof completely gone in just a matter of seconds. Another moment right here. Now, this is going viral on Twitter. Her name is Megan Scavo. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. This is on Bonita Beach. Check this out right here. Her boyfriend, that's a cat. That is a cat right where the water is. He's about to go up and rescue that cat. Now, obviously, when you're in a situation like this, when we're in storms, make sure you are safe, you are in shelter. You don't want to risk your life for something like this, but obviously you can see they rescue this cat right here. It's a very touching moment to see him grab that orange and white cat as the water is rushing in. You can see that cat just clinging to his shoulders, thankful that they were there to rescue him. But again, this is our home, Structures are flying everywhere. There is debris everywhere. The water is rushing in. So if you are out, just make sure you are safe right now. You shouldn't be out. That's the first thing. But of course, moments like this, you know, it's great to see, but just please, please be safe. And this is a reality that we're dealing with right now. Back to you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nicole. You know, a lot of animal lovers were writing in very concerned. A lot of the animals were evacuated, so from like domestic animal services, places like that, so that they would be out of harm's way.
Let's take you live to I-75 southbound, just near Corkscrew Road or south of Corkscrew Road, mile marker 119, and always one car there seems to be.
Always one.
Yeah.
Always one. But noticeable from the last time that we looked at one of these FDOT cameras, the cameras are a lot more wobbly. And again, these are prone to be wobbly because they're high up and they're in the wind anyway. But this is a much more unstable picture, if you will, unstable camera than we've seen the last time we looked at it. And you can really tell the conditions are getting more serious even at this inland location.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I mean, we're talking about wind gusts. And you're talking about the camera's unstable. That driver's probably all over the road dealing with these occasional bursts of wind, 60 to 90. That's enough power to, you know, have you go from one lane to the other. So
doesn't matter how low profile your car is. That's going to be hard to manage.
Let's go right now to our lobby here at Wink News, looking over at Altamar, the condos on the other side, right along the river. This is right on Palm Beach Boulevard, and you see the palm trees there swaying in the breeze.
But I'll tell you, someone sitting right across the street, looking, you know, that's our building, or from our building. Those pictures don't match the sounds that we're just hearing. The sounds have been so much more intense than that picture makes it look, which
those are protected.
I suspect is true for a lot of people who can't see outside of their homes. The sounds are much more ferocious than what they're able to see.
Absolutely, and we are still, so Matt, this is near downtown Fort Myers, all of downtown Fort Myers, right on the Caloosahatchee. What are we looking at in terms of high tide for downtown Fort Myers and the storm surge threat that we continue to see here?
I would say based off the current positioning of the storm, I think soon we're starting to make that transition where I do expect the water levels to start to go up, and it could go up fairly quickly. I have Dylan. He's right now maneuvering the camera, trying to find the flooding situation, and this is about maybe 500 feet away from us here at Wink, and that could be a combo of heavy rainfall as well as the Caloosahatchee starting to rise.
I was going to say...
Okay, Dylan, you want to position it down to Billy Creek?
We're learning from the producer who is very familiar with this area is that area you saw with water is an area that floods regularly during rain. So this is Billy's Creek, and this is an area we usually watch. We can see the docks across the creek, and as the water starts to rise, a lot of those docks will become covered. I think Dylan Federico was just outside not long ago, or was able to peek outside, and the creek is right up to the seawall right now.
If you see that house there with the pool kind of off to the top right of your screen, and that we've been keeping our eye on that area kind of as a barometer of water, and it's definitely more than it was the last time we were looking at this shot.
We're looking about 2 to 3 feet right now above average and above where we should be, but that number's going to go up very quickly coming up.
And that lot across the street that we were looking at the condo at Palm Beach Landings there, I used to own a unit in that complex. They're right, that does flood a lot, but it also drains fast. So it'll be another good barometer of how the water is rising through this, because it's about as flooded now as it gets during a heavy rain. So above that would be unusual.
And Fort Myers, the high tide is 7 o'clock. So we're going to see the true nature of the surge and the water potential as we hit. So it's about 2:45 now. We got about 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so there you see where we are. Let's go back to the radar so we can keep an eye on where the eye is and where the most devastating parts of the storm are, the eye wall. And we see some more of those fuchsia colors again up in Charlotte County. So there's definitely some very heavy rain, a lot of lightning along the I-75 corridor there too, Matt.
And we're talking, visibility not even a quarter mile. Wind gusts within that, upwards of 80, 100, even probably some flirting with 110, 120. And that is on the northeastern quadrant of the eye wall. And boy, now is the time to treat it like a tornado. Charlotte County, center part of your home, away from windows. And the reason why we always say that, the potential for flying projectiles. You have, let's say, a piece of a roof, or we showed the video earlier of the lanai,
Yes.
and the porch
Lift
that got completely ripped off, and then that debris is launched through the air at 80 to 100 miles an hour. So that's why we tell you to get away from windows, get to the interior. And yeah, here is the video, and you will watch the end of it. You'll see there's a strong burst of wind. The wind goes under the lanai, and you'll see it to start to lift right there.
Right over the house.
And think about a piece of that, whether it's the side of it, the top of it, going towards your window. Think about the seriousness of that and the damage that it can do. But the more that you insulate yourself, you put as many walls between you and the exterior, the better off that you will be.
Yeah, and we're also on a much smaller scale, just reading what people are writing in on social media and some of the emails. Not entire lanais, but portions of lanais, certainly flying roof shingles, a recycling bin that went from one side of the yard to the other. There are a lot of smaller things out there that are perhaps or that would be just as dangerous if you happened to be out there, or they were coming at your window and your window is not a hurricane window or something like that can protect you. I
mean, we're seeing all of that debris. When we look at the storm surge video from Fort Myers Beach, we're seeing all that debris. We'll never know where some of it came from. It's just everywhere in the water along Estero Boulevard and along the resorts and hotels and homes there.
Well, and I think the next step, and I just want to prepare everybody that's listening here in the studio at WINK, we got to mentally prepare. We've already been hit with winds of about 100 miles an hour. If we could punch up weather one, and Greg, if you could zoom in, right now, Northeast Cape is getting slammed with one of the strongest, if not the strongest, band of rain. This is going to be the eye wall, the eastern side, and where you see that pocket of red, we will likely see our worst weather of the day so far. So I just wanted to mentally prepare everybody that lives in this general vicinity and is also here at WINK. We are going to have some big rain and wind that will start to filter in, wind gusts easily over 100 miles an hour as it circulates around Ian.
And not a lot of large mobile home, manufactured home parks in that area of North Fort Myers. Very concerned for those communities. Hopefully people evacuated, knowing it's not a safe place to be.
But even with people out, a lot of those, especially some of the ones that deal with the smaller homes, there's a lot of things in those communities that could become debris and end up being, another type of problem, but hopefully nobody's out.
Well, and we saw that in January with our tornado outbreak.
Sure, of course.
All the debris that was thrown into the air.
Now, I was just noticing, because I keep looking for those little pockets of dry air that you talk about where the circle doesn't quite come together, kind of down by Bonita Springs now. Is that... It's a little further south than it was east before. Does that mean anything?
Because you think about it, it is circulating around all this air, and at times it's not all completely humid and saturated, and you get these little pockets of dry air, and that is what it literally is circulating around. And like you said, at times you don't get a completely symmetrical eye wall, and we are seeing a little bit broken on the southeastern side.
We'll take any break we can get.
Yeah, man, I'll take it.
Even that small one is something for the people who get a little bit of a break because they happen to live near it.
Now, I didn't miss landfall, did I? I mean...
I've been checking. National Hurricane Center hasn't said it yet, but I mean, it is getting close.
Sure looks like it, yes.
Dylan and Greg, do we have an update from the Hurricane Center on any potential landfall, which it looks to be around North Captiva, very close to it. So that we should be getting that any minute, at least the official.
I mean, we're seeing all different kinds of pictures right now. We're getting some pictures in, like from Matlacha, where, you have all those funky colored, beautiful stretch with all the art galleries and things. And there's a lot of older buildings there. We see roof materials being ripped off and things floating around. Not just landscaping damage. There appears to be damage around there as well. And we want to go to Harborview Road, mile marker 166 on I-75, just to take a look at the bridge there in Charlotte County. And you can see the camera, of course, bouncing around again. And
the tree limbs.
Looks like a lot of tree limbs or horticulture on the road there.
On the road.
But certainly we are not seeing the kinds of conditions and the kinds of wind on 75 here that we saw when we were looking down at Corkscrew just a little while ago. So not yet for them. It's headed that way, obviously, but if you look at how the camera is kind of holding itself together a little bit better here than it was down south.
Yeah. We're hearing quite a lot of wind overhead here.
Listen to what's happening over our heads.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Greg, can you zoom in one more time to Cape Coral, Fort Myers? Because this should be any minute. And also, if we could punch up, Fisherman's Village is rocking and rolling right now. We got winds easily, hurricane force, and that's why you'll notice the feed is glitchy right now, going in and out. And it is certainly howling from the southeast, rotating around the storm. Greg, let's zoom in even more to weather 1. Okay, and if we could, let's punch up weather 1. And there it is. It is going to be absolutely intense for Cypress Lake, up McGregor, Page Field. We should be getting a wind observation there here shortly. Northeast Cape, North Fort Myers, the bridges.
Yep. And
like you both had noted, I actually had a hurricane talk at a manufactured home community in North Fort Myers, and thankfully I was very encouraged to hear that they had contingencies. They had plans for major hurricanes that were going to approach the area. So I hope that they had evacuated, considering how susceptible they were to the wind.
Right.
So it's just interesting, as we go through all these areas in the darker colors here, people see it kind of headed toward them right now. So one of our perhaps most at-risk areas from wind in the next half hour is going to be that McGregor corridor and right on the other side of the river in Cape Coral. And there's just a lot of people in those two areas.
Yeah, highly populated, and this is essentially that fierce thin line right there. That's where the winds could very well hit over 100 miles an hour. It has had a history of hitting over 100 miles an hour. And Greg, let's stop it right there and essentially just go due east with that line, and that's where it's going. So next up is going to be, just off the top of my head, 6 Mile, all the way to Tice, Veronica Shoemaker, I-75, and then that will continue to try to work its way towards Gateway, and then Buckingham, Fort Myers Shores, and then it will continue to rotate towards Babcock Ranch. But this one means business. This is the one that we warn about with the tornado-like ones.
So those of you who are listening on the radio, this is very interesting how it's like right along the US 41 roadway. There's a very strong line that's all the way, as Matt was saying, from the villas north, and it's following, it seems to be, around that 41 corridor and spinning around. So if you can't see us right now, at least you have some idea of where we're talking about, and then it's moving east.
And if you need a good visual, I would say, guys, it's literally right on top of Tamiami Trail.
Right,
I mean, literally from north to south.
Yeah.
It's right on top of Tamiami Trail. FSW, Page Field is seeing the brunt of it. We should be hearing it and seeing it at WINK shortly, right? I mean, it should be any minute where it's going to really pick up. And then Tice, you're up next. North Fort Myers, seeing the bulk of it. Suncoast Estates, it's likely getting noisy, loud outside with the gusty wind. Even have a few lightning strikes embedded into the mix. Specific communities, Magnolia Landing towards the Lee and Charlotte County line. Let's continue to go up towards Punta Gorda Airport, which has already had a wind gust to 105 miles an hour. There's going to be south of Punta Gorda Heights. And then Greg, okay, there's Punta Gorda Airport. And let's zoom out a little bit more. And I also, we've been spending a lot of time on Lee and Charlotte County. For some peace of mind for our viewers in Collier County, let's go south of the Caloosahatchee real quick, Greg. And the interesting note here is look at that fierce band that could, in fact, brush northern Collier County. So we got to watch that. That could have wind gusts well in excess of 80 to 100 miles an hour as that will circulate towards Bonita Springs and even Vanderbilt Beach, which, as we've had the video, is flooding as is.
Yes, it is.
Right.
It's very flooded right now.
And people keep asking in Marco and in Naples about the water. Plateaued, but they still have tides, you keep saying, to deal with. So I just want to keep answering that question because people keep asking it. It's not over for you yet.
Right. And, we are right now at your peak. And yes, it could slowly come down a foot or two, but you're still going to deal with periods of surge from now and all the way towards about Thursday night. Granted, right now is likely the highest level, but we will see a slow decline.
Just about a minute ago, we got information from the Marco Island Police Department, and it's letting Marco Island residents know all roads and all bridges on Marco Island are impassable at this time. They're asking you, please do not leave your homes. Take shelter, move to the highest point of your home. Leaving your home at this point is too dangerous. Power is also out at the police station. They're working to switch to generators there. But remember, police and emergency services will not respond to you until the situation is safe. They are telling you to stay hunkered down.
And we're getting information from the Collier County Sheriff's Office right now that several parking garages along the coast in Collier County are flooded with water over vehicle roofs. We've been kind of seeing that with our crew at Vanderbilt Beach, but especially at 41 and 5th Avenue South. That intersection is underwater. They are assisting Marco Island, they say, with severe flooding as well on the Isle of Capri, and reminding people that they cannot respond to individual requests to check on flooded roads. They're in the middle of an emergency. They're doing the best they can. If you're trapped by flood water, they say, or in a life-threatening situation, call 911. At this point, even 911 is not a guarantee that they'll be able to come and help. But multiple parking garages on the coast of Collier County flooded with water over vehicle roofs. And we know that to be true further north too at Vanderbilt Beach, because that's where our cars are parked and they're underwater.
And we're going to go there right now. Chris, Taylor Wirtz is standing by at Vanderbilt Beach, and she showed us that dumpster floating down along the back bay there. And that is a huge body of water back there, Taylor. So I just can't imagine. There's a lot of homes around that area.
Yeah, Lois, there absolutely are, and many of them at this point are starting to go underwater. If I could have my photographer, Joe, pan over to my left, there's some homes right here. You can just barely make out the rooftops. Those are pretty much submerged at this point. The higher elevated homes are still doing okay, but those first floors, in fact, the first floor of our hotel, I'm not sure if we have some video that I took earlier that we could pull up. It looks like the scene in the Titanic. The water is coming up the stairs, has almost fully reached the first floor at this point. As you mentioned, our news cars are all submerged underwater, and out on Gulf Shore Boulevard, right on Vanderbilt Beach, it looks like an ocean. That is a road. I think we have some video of that too as well. There are cars slamming up against the side of buildings. The tops of trees look like little plants. I mean, just, it's impossible to put into words. And so I think just showing you is the most we can do. But we still, again, are seeing these boats that were tied up. This one tied up very high above the pier. It's bobbing. It's still staying put, but I don't know how much longer that's going to be. We have seen a lot of boats floating around, though, and it's worth noting that our hotel alarms have been going on and on. There's this screeching noise, and so obviously they want everybody to stay inside. I think high elevation and staying indoors is the name of the game right now. Our power's out. Again, we have no cars, so just stay as safe as you can, stay indoors, and just take care. Live from Vanderbilt Beach, Taylor Wirtz, Wink News.
All right, Taylor, yeah. And you
Powerful words. Take care.
And you do the same. We have another vantage point on those cars underwater at Vanderbilt Beach where our crews are. Rachel Cox-Rosen has got some brand new video for us, or a new perspective anyway.
Yeah, we just heard from Taylor Wirtz, and this is video that she took earlier showing that parking garage we were talking about before. Look at that water surging in, and there are vehicles under there that are completely submerged with water. It's fast moving, and I want to show you another image of this. It's sideways, but you can see that's the top of a car there. Wait for it. There it is. There's a top, just the top, the roof of that car. Everything else submerged. There are other cars. There's another one right there. Obviously, not a good sight to see for anyone who's decided to park on the first floor of a parking garage. And Chris, you were talking about earlier that the Collier County Sheriff's Office has warned about this. It's definitely a concern, that storm surge right now in Vanderbilt Beach. Quite significant. And our reporter, Taylor Wirtz, is still out there, and at Montgomery as well, continuing to bring us updates. Back to you guys.
Yeah, all up and down the coast now, apparently, because we can see Vanderbilt. We know Fifth Avenue South at 41, and the municipal garages in that area are flooded. So, yeah, a lot of at least first-level cars are going to be underwater.
Yeah, I mean, remember, Naples under a curfew right now until further notice. They don't want you out on the roads. There's a lot of flooded roadways, very dangerous situation out there, and so they don't want you out.
Right. Let's bring Matt back in right now as we continue to watch the eye wall of this and listen to it right above our heads. Something just went snap or hit it or something.
And what you can't see at home, all of our lights are shaking.
Yeah.
Not like two of them, all of them.
Yeah, the grid does move when we get winds like that.
And it's just that they're moving even more than normal. We just here at Fort Myers, the tide levels are now hitting about 3 to 4 feet above average, so it still is continuing to rise. We have our Skycam shot outside. If we could punch up, there it is.
There it is.
And even here at WINK, our parking lot is getting flooded. Billy Creek is being overwhelmed by water.
If you look between those big two satellite dishes on the right side of your screen, and if you look at the ground and follow it, you can pretty much follow the parking lot level with the creek. Usually the water would be lower.
Okay, we want to go to Charlotte County, to the EOC. This is the new information they're sending out.
3 p.m. briefing. As our residents are aware, we're beginning to experience heavy impacts from Hurricane Ian. This storm still possesses catastrophic intensity, bringing about storm surge to life-threatening levels, hurricane force winds damaging to homes, and heavy rainfall. Our residents are urged to continue to hunker down throughout this storm. The eye of Hurricane Ian is large in size in comparison to Hurricane Charlie, which had a 12-mile eye. This storm has an eye larger than 60 miles across. Please do not go out venturing in the eye thinking you're safe. Please remain hunkered down until the storm has passed by. We remain monitoring the storm here, but as a reminder to our residents, emergency services are unable to respond at this time due to the intensity of the storm. Please continue to hunker down and remain safe. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
What are the areas most impacted right now, as far as you can tell? And then secondly, can you talk to us at all about some of the calls that might be coming in for assistance? I know right now you can't send first responders out there, but what are you hearing?
Well, right now the areas of the county, obviously it's moving, from the Gulf of Mexico. So our western portion of the county is probably receiving the highest level winds and storm surge, and that's going to continue to move east as the storm moves northeast direction. The kind of calls we're receiving, they include any number of things, questions about the timing of the storm, what they should do if they have damage, just normal calls that we get during storms. Nothing critical in nature at this point. But we are urging residents to continue to remain in their homes, away from windows, and hunker down as safe as possible.
What's kind of the next few hours going to look like?
We're going to continue to see the effects of this storm. This is a large storm. The wind field for this is over 200 miles wide. Again, this is not similar to Hurricane Charlie in size at all. Anyone who was in this community back in 2004 should know this is a very different storm. It's going to last long. It's not moving quickly. It's going to take a while for it to clear our area. We're going to experience impacts of this into tomorrow.
And is there any timeline right now when crews might be able to go back out on the roads?
We continue to monitor the time frame in which crews can get back out on the road, and it all depends on when the damaging and severe impacts from this storm cease.
Extreme wind warning.
Can you, because obviously you have cameras in different locations, can you give us a sense of what you're seeing out there visually as far as storm surge? Are there areas that you can talk about as far as that are seeing a lot of water?
Well, information's trickling into the Emergency Operations Center. The storm surge, we're still at the very beginning of that. We will see that continue throughout the afternoon into the evening. It's going to begin to fill up canals, overtop land, potentially into homes. We have some reports of water intrusion into homes, and I expect that to continue. We're going to see life-threatening storm surge. Hopefully those folks in the evacuation areas have left. If you have not left, now is not the time to be on the road. Please remain hunkered down. This is a dangerous storm, both from water and from wind.
All right, so we're listening to the Emergency Operations Center in Charlotte County telling everybody to stay put. The worst is still coming for Charlotte County. They're just getting started. I-75 at Harborview right now, you can see how much the wind is picking up there since 15 minutes ago when we were looking in this general area.
And while we were listening to the Charlotte EOC, all of our phones were going off here in Fort Myers because there's an emergency alert from the National Weather Service, an extreme wind warning. It's in effect for this area of Lee County, downtown Fort Myers, until 6 p.m. This is life-threatening wind. Stay where you are. Do not go out. Protect your head from any flying debris if you happen to be in an area where that happens. Get to the interior of a sturdy building. Stay there until we are clear of all this. The wind's really howling right now, Matt, in downtown Fort Myers.
Well said, Lois. So here is the coverage of the extreme wind warning. I have it up in Weather 2. And let me show this real quick and then we'll go back to the shot. So everybody in this orange shading, extreme wind warning, where literally the winds are so strong that it is tornado-like and it could be life-threatening. So extreme wind warning in effect for almost 1 million people within this extreme wind warning until 6 o'clock. This is the time that we talked about to treat it like a tornado. Get into the interior part of your home immediately, away from windows. This is not a storm to look at. Get to the interior, the closet, the bathroom. This is as serious as it gets, as we have seen multiple reports of wind well over 100 miles an hour. And if we have any debris in the air, that's going to be launched at your home at that type of speed. And just think of a palm frond or anything that is launched through the sky at 100 miles an hour, the type of damage that can do. So to reiterate, extreme wind warning, over 800,000 people under this. Charlotte, DeSoto, Lee, and Sarasota County, as you will see the eye wall, and winds over 100 miles an hour as that wind is also driving up. This is live right outside of Wink, and I just took a peek a second ago, and it's coming up fast. So we are going to be monitoring that here, not only at Wink, right along Fort Myers, but in the Cape, we've got your back, North Fort Myers, and you name it. If you are exposed to a waterway, we will let you know the status as soon as it comes in.
And just to reiterate something you said that's so important in these zones, if you're home, stay away from windows.
Yep.
I mean, it's tempting to look, it's tempting to want to see, it's tempting. Anything, if you don't have Andrew-rated hurricane impact windows, anything flying through the air can come right through that glass. You've got to be in an interior room with no windows as best as you can, laundry room, closet, bathtub, something like that.
You put up the shutters, you put up the different things to protect your home. Why would you not protect yourself and stay inside that sheltered building that's reinforced for your safety?
Well said. And guys, behind you, I just saw a car drive on that road. And I'm concerned because that is I-75 South, and the trees serve as friction to slow down the wind to a certain degree.
Right.
If he's going to be heading, or he or she going to be heading over the bridge.
Let's tell the control room what you're looking at here. We're looking at 75, mile marker 168. There you go.
Okay,
now the viewers can
Okay,
see
so
it.
we had a car that just drove by in these conditions, but the land serves as friction to slow down the wind a little bit. But the problem is when that driver goes over the Peace River Bridge, you're over the water, there's nothing to slow down the wind, and that car could literally flip over with this type of wind over 100 miles an hour. So just not the time to be on the roads.
No, and some of the emergency crews we're seeing are posting, like Lehigh Acres Fire is posting, the hardest thing for them to do, the firefighters and the emergency teams, is to wait out this storm because they know they just can't respond right now to help you. But they said, rest assured, they're ready and they will be coming. They just are waiting until the storm is clear. Nobody should be going out in this.
And at this point, they're just listing calls and trying to prioritize, but nobody can respond. Nobody would be out in this. Let's see if we can take the picture back live in our parking lot here. And there in Billy Creek, you don't see a current like that in the wind. And take a look at the river here as we head out to the Caloosahatchee. There are the Beau Rivage and the buildings being built. Hard to tell from that vantage point. Okay, one of our employees lives in those buildings, just called to say there are screens coming off those buildings. And those buildings were being built, ironically, during 2004. One of the big concerns during Charlie was the hurricane debris from those buildings. Been fine since, but now the screens are starting to come off, according to one of our employees who lives across the street.
Well, and the other thing we got to keep in mind is I had just talked about how land serves as a frictional force to slow down the wind. As you get higher up, you don't have as much of that frictional force to slow down the wind. Translation, the wind speeds are higher at the top of those condos than at the ground. And sometimes you can almost add an additional category of the hurricane, and that is what they're dealing with. And I am not surprised by the report that you just said, that the screens are popping out, destroyed, getting probably likely thrown into the river. And we are seeing winds well over 100 miles an hour right now in this live shot at the condos.
And let's see, is there any way? There's nobody over there to move it. Let's see if we can see.
I am.
Okay, you are. Let's see if we can just see the First Street Bridge better and try to gauge the level of Billy Creek.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to move the camera.
Because we know we have water coming into our parking lot, which is where we're headed toward right now. All right, so you can still see the bridge okay, but yeah, you can see more and more water coming over the bank into our parking lot here. Just taking that as an indication of what people in downtown Fort Myers are starting to go through. The water is starting to rise here, and we are significantly up the Caloosahatchee from Punta Rasa. So if the water is starting to rise here, there's a good chance it is starting to rise in other places along the river.
That's right.
Up through Cape Coral, up through the McGregor Corridor, Iona area, lots of places with lots of people who have hopefully all left.
On the Cape side as well, you know.
Oh,
the
sure.
Cape side, North Fort Myers, yes.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this affects a lot of people.
I do have a quick breaker. The National Hurricane Center has announced landfall. Okay. Y'all just see that?
No.
No, we haven't seen it yet.
We just had a transformer in the live shot right along Billy Creek.
Okay.
I heard it outside. The viewers probably just saw it on the live shot. One of our transformers blew right near the station. We are operating on generator right now, but we literally just saw it live. But to go back to the report, the National Hurricane Center at about 3:10 announced that it made landfall, sure enough, near North Captiva as a 150 Cat 4 pressure, 940 millibars. For reference, Charlie, 150, 941.
Wow.
This was 940, 150, same as Charlie, almost the exact same landfall location, and it was around this time as well.
Just so much bigger.
Just about 2 to 3 times as big. Yeah.
Keeping our eye on the water now. We're trying to keep you apprised of what's happening next in all the different areas in our viewing area, and one of the next to be affected is going to be this corridor here all along the river from, Punta Rasa well past downtown Fort Myers, to see how far the water comes up, when it comes up, and how many people it affects, because there are homes pretty much all the way through there.
We know some of you are hearing things outside right now, scary noises. We're all hearing them. We're all in this together. There we go, some
Another
more.
transformer.
Another transformer.
That was it. Yep.
Another transformer just blew. We're going to see a lot of that. Those of you who are listening on radio, we're watching from our tower cam right here on Palm Beach Boulevard at Wink TV, and we're seeing transformers down along Billy Creek, right along the roadway, blowing right now. And so we're seeing sparks flying, and I'm sure there's lots of things to mimic that all over Southwest Florida now.
Let's go a little bit east for a minute and check out I-75 at Palm Beach Boulevard. It's getting hard to check these cameras because the cameras can't hold still. But as best as we can tell, obviously very windy, and as best as we can tell, we don't see anybody on there, but we have an awful lot of wind now in the more interior portions where we hadn't seen it before.
Let's go over to Russ McCaskey right now, who has some video of some water rescues. And Russ, we don't like to hear this, but what are you seeing?
Yeah, there are some water rescues been taking place. This is Naples Fire, and they just sent this video in. So let's see if I can get that to play. Here we go. Oh, I hit it again. And so what you're going to see is it's going to pan over. It's going to be a little jarring for just a moment, but then you're going to see the firefighters who are walking a person out very carefully. They're holding up a lot of things over the water, some of the personal equipment perhaps, but this is one of the water rescues that has taken place. We've been talking about how you can't guarantee that there will be firefighters and ambulances and so forth they're going to be able to respond because of the conditions, but when they can, perhaps they will, and they were able to get that person out of the water. Again, that from Naples Fire Rescue. I think we have a couple of other videos that we could also take a look at. We have one from Fort Myers Beach, if we want to call that one up, of flooding there that was taken about a half hour ago. Do we have that one? Okay, yeah, here is Fort Myers Beach from about a half hour ago, and just take a look at that water, the storm surge. You can really see it now, up several feet on Fort Myers Beach, almost to the bottom of the first floor of the parking garage there, all that area. Looks like that is going to be underwater, those palm trees just swaying. So that was at 2:45. Let's go back to 1 o'clock, and this is some of the most incredible video that we saw on Fort Myers Beach, and that is the Lee County Sheriff's Office Mobile Command Unit. And it is literally floating right there by the Margaritaville resort that's being built, and it just starts moving. Eventually it hits this palm tree here, but it doesn't stop there. It keeps going. You can just see the wind and the water and the power that is involved in that. Essentially, as Lois said, a mobile home that is being moved by all of that water. Just an incredible piece of video there. So this storm is a tough storm, and it has a lot of power, guys.
All right, yeah, giving us a real idea of the severity of it. Pictures kind of matching the sounds that a lot of people are hearing in their homes and wondering what's going on out there. You know, if you're listening on the radio and you were just listening to what Russ was talking about and couldn't see it, on Fort Myers Beach there was literally not a piece of pavement that you could even come close to seeing. I mean, the water is everywhere, including, as he said, some of the ground level under the building parking garages, which are pretty much full up to the first level of living above them. So they're going to have
10 feet, close to 10 feet in height for those parking garages.
We are absolutely going to have a lot of flooded out cars and a lot of people who are not going to be able to get to their cars for a while, if nothing else, as we go through this.
Or get out of their condos if they're still there, hunkered down, or get out because there's just too much water and too much danger in the streets.
Trapped inside. WINK News Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt is standing by with an update for us.
Okay, so in addition to the saltwater flooding, I have a flash flood warning for Northport, as well as Port Charlotte, Rotunda, Englewood. This is a persistent, heavy band of rain on the northern side of the eye wall, as we have seen major totals so far today. Let me throw on some of the Doppler estimates, and pretty overwhelming. Let me throw on, we have about a foot of rain, and that has just been within the past 15 hours. And just too much rainfall. It has nowhere to go because the surge is preventing it from running off back into Charlotte Harbor and into the Gulf. So flash flood warning right now in effect. Here's going to be the situation at hand. The eye has made landfall between Boca Grande and North Captiva. 150, Category 4. The max wind's 150 miles an hour. Okay? So you can see that right on the bottom hand portion of your screen. Ian has made landfall here in Southwest Florida, the exact same spot as Charlie, the exact same intensity as Charlie, and almost roughly the exact same time, except this is a bigger and much more fierce storm. All right, so let me show you exactly what is going on. DeSoto County, you're going to start to see a big change, Arcadia. The eye wall is now moving in. So Arcadia, please hunker down. This is the extreme wind warning that we talked about. This is going to be where the winds are going to pick up drastically. 100 miles an hour plus expected down US 17 towards Port Charlotte as well as Punta Gorda, where you see that band of dark red, maximum sustained winds upwards of 70 to 100, if not gusting greater than that. And that is pivoting towards Northport and Englewood. But look at Boca Grande and Point South. Pine Island is now in the eye. Pine Island is now in the eye, along with North Captiva and even Northwest Cape. That is where the heavy rain, the strong damaging wind has now led to lighter winds, and even, I want to see here on the visible satellite imagery, it is not impossible to see even breaks in the clouds and to see the sun come out. And it looks like we have a few breaks around Pine Island Center as well as North Captiva, and some sun is right now peeking through where the eye is pushing on shore as a 150 Category 4. Now let's take you into Lee County. And before I do that, I tell you what, before I do that, let's sample some of the wind speeds that are right now being picked up with WINK Live Doppler 3X. And we have a lot of bright colors that we traditionally don't see in our area. So let's sample some of the wind speeds that are right now being picked up. There's 105 near Boca Grande, 125 elevated near Punta Gorda. Let me take you over into Rotunda, as well as El Jobim. There's a 94. So based off of that range, there is very well the possibility that winds gusting 90 to 130 miles an hour are possible at the moment in Charlotte County. Now, granted, it's going to be a touch lower as it pushes into DeSoto County, but even you around Arcadia and Nocatee need to be mentally prepared for a huge amount of this wind to eventually work its way into your area. Let's switch back over to radar, as I want to show you the intense band of rain which has now passed by downtown Fort Myers as well as North Fort Myers. If we could in the back, I'm curious to see this. Let's punch up the WINK Doppler cam. That's where the eye wall is right now working its way towards. So the WINK, yeah, there it is. And it's hanging tough. It's doing a great job. Let's keep it going. But that eye wall is about to approach the Doppler, and it's probably going to get the biggest test that it's ever had so far since we put it up, with winds upwards of 100 miles an hour, but so far taking it like a champ. Babcock Ranch, you will also shortly see the periphery of this eye wall, and where you see that dark red, that is going to be working its way into Babcock Ranch. So let's go back to the radar. Okay, let's go back to my Weather 2 system. We'll go back to the visual here in a second. Babcock Ranch, you'll notice that red, that is the worst part. That's the 100-plus wind that is very close to our radar site. It has just slammed North Fort Myers as well as downtown Fort Myers. Pine Island Center is now on the eye, but we're starting to see, and I want to punch, if you could punch me up here at the touchscreen, look at the motion around the eye. And that's when we're going to start to see the surge really move in, because it is literally getting forced up the Caloosahatchee now as we are approaching high tide. This is the worst case scenario. It is unfolding as our water levels are rising because of the strong wind that is forcing the water up the river. Okay, now let's analyze some of the wind speeds that we have. Oh, and also for the viewers, for my viewers around Buckingham, Lehigh Acres, this is an extension of one of the strong portions of the eye wall. It's working its way down towards Bonita and Estero. Your winds are going to be picking up significantly as that is filtering in towards Vanderbilt Beach. Now let's analyze the wind speeds to see what type of wind that we're dealing with here. And the winds are fairly strong right now in this pocket of purple. That is as strong as it's going to get in this part of the storm. And let's take a look at some of the sampling. And we are looking at the potential of winds gusting. And granted, this is analyzed a little bit above the ground, but we could take most, if not all of it, and bring it down to the surface. And right now the winds are being analyzed around Fort Myers Beach, as well as Iona and Villas, Bell Tower, FSW, between the 90 to 130 mile per hour range for gusts. That is why we're treating this like a tornado. Hunker down, center part of your home, away from windows. Insulate yourself with as many rooms as you can and as many walls as you can from the exterior, as that is going to be rotating around and then eventually working its way towards Bell Tower, Gateway, Gulf Coast Town Center, and then eventually downtown Fort Myers. Also want to do some sampling of some of the wind speeds around Lehigh Acres and Gateway. There's some 81, there's 125, and then around San Carlos Park about 114 miles an hour. Okay, now for our final stop into Collier County before we also highlight our friends around Lake Okeechobee. Okay, I'm going to extend the radar. There we go. There's the full vantage point, and you can see the southern extension of the eye wall rotating around, and this is a particularly fierce part. And if you're listening to me on radio, the extension of this bad part of the eye wall is from Estero to Pelican Bay. Under the gun is going to be Bonita Springs as well as Vanderbilt Beach. Winds, according to radar estimates, I'm going to sample some of these, are upwards of about 70 to even 90, if not 100 miles an hour. Already, I have had a wind gust to 105 in Naples during this storm's duration, as more surge and more rain is going to be coming in from the Gulf. And notice how we're starting to see bands rotate around LaBelle. LaBelle, outer bands, but not the core just yet, as the full force of Ian, guys, continues to make its way felt across Southwest Florida.
Thank you very much, Matt. We are really hearing the sounds here in downtown Fort Myers. We know so many of you at home are also hearing those sounds. Don't worry, we are here with you. We still have a lot to go. So make sure you stay hunkered down where you are. This is our tower cam looking down at the satellite dishes there into Billy's Creek, where we're seeing the water levels rise. This is what was expected with this storm surge in downtown Fort Myers. So if you're anywhere along the McGregor corridor on the Fort Myers side or along the Caloosahatchee on the Cape Coral side, if you're in North Fort Myers, you're seeing this as well too. And you might see, if you're watching the parking lot right by the satellite dishes, every once in a while you'll see a wind gust that's really blowing, and it's blowing water from our parking lot toward Billy Creek. So the parking lot in our back of our building is flooded right now. And so anyone along Billy Creek and those homes along Billy Creek in Fort Myers, you're probably experiencing something similar. You don't have to be right on the Caloosahatchee to see this storm surge. Any of the tributaries are going to be rising as well.
I do have a new update. Punta Gorda, we were just noting the northeastern eye wall, just got a wind gust to 110 miles an hour.
Okay.
So that's the type of wind that we are right now dealing with at Punta Gorda Airport.
Okay.
Now that's going to be rotating around towards Port Charlotte and Northport. So plan on bare minimum 100 to 110, if not 120 mile per hour wind.
Okay, now we're looking at this at Fisherman's Village, but it's frozen. This shot is now frozen, so it gives you a still picture of what was happening there when the camera froze. But you can see we were watching how the water was so low, and it's not as low as it seems to have been. Am I seeing that correctly, Matt? Or are we, because
well,
we know...
and I do expect a gradual change. It is still, we are still seeing lower levels around Fisherman's Village, but that is going to change quickly.
Okay.
Once it starts to make that turn even more to the northeast, and as the winds turn around and more from the west, that's when the water's going to pile up.
Okay, so there are low levels in Punta Gorda, low elevation levels, low levels in Port Charlotte, all along the Peace River in Charlotte Harbor. There's a lot of areas there that are very low lying. So much of Charlotte County is very low lying, which is why they evacuated their A and B zones, 127,000 people potentially in those low level zones that they asked you to evacuate, and they don't have nearly that number, not even close, in their shelters. Hopefully people have evacuated those areas because they would avoid not only the surge but the strong winds that you were just so adequately pointing out to them while you were doing your weathercast, Matt. So as we continue to watch Wink Doppler 3X, Matt just told you we had landfall around North Captiva, 150 mile an hour storm. And Dylan, you were just saying that you wouldn't be surprised at all if when they look at the analysis of what this storm is doing, that they could change the strength of that storm later.
Absolutely. The radar data and along with the Hurricane Hunter data certainly gave enough evidence for it to happen. But I will say, regardless of whether or not they up it after the fact, Ian does tie the record for the fourth strongest hurricane on record to make landfall in the United States from a wind standpoint.
Is that in Pacific and Atlantic, or just the Atlantic?
Just the United States from the Atlantic.
Okay, just the United States from the Atlantic. All
yes.
right. Yeah, so I don't think we have to convince anyone that this is a historic event for us here in Southwest Florida. Matt has been telling you all day long how this is a worst case scenario for us because of all the factors of a hurricane being felt here. I'm sorry, we're going to go to Palm Beach Boulevard and Shoemaker, and there are your live pictures of what's happening right there in Fort Myers. You see the trees whipping, you see the power or cable lines whipping in the wind from this traffic camera. This is really in very, very centralized Fort Myers, and it's nice to see that the streets are empty because a lot of residential areas around this.
And doesn't do it justice. I just took a walk through the newsroom and looked out of one of the kind of protected windows we have at what's going on around us, and you can see from this view the water is definitely coming up, and it looks like it's coming up along the river a little bit as well. But if you are downtown in Fort Myers and hopefully in a safe place, somewhere elevated impact windows, and you can see out the window, this looks calm by comparison to what you'll see out of your window. It is really intense and almost violent out there right now.
And we're chugging along here, folks. We're getting through it. We're getting through it, okay? And we are approaching the middle point of the storm. Just hang on tight with us, okay? We're almost through. We got a couple more hours of intense weather with strong wind, surge, and heavy rain, but we're going to be with you every step of the way. We are not going anywhere. Lois?
Okay, we're seeing some of these green boxes again, the flood advisories. Is that what they are, Matt? Right out in the LaBelle area?
Correct. They are flood advisories. And then we also have what you see, that outline near Port and towards the beginning of Charlotte.
Right.
That corridor right there, that's even worse. That's an upgrade from the area you see around LaBelle. That is a flash flood warning.
Okay.
They've had since midnight a foot of rain, almost approaching 13, and still look at the duration of the heavy rain. They could be talking about 20 inches plus in spots because of the fact that it's moving so slow. For the listeners right now on radio, the area that I'm talking about is mainly Charlotte County, southern sections of Sarasota County, Doppler estimates of about 12 to 13 inches around Englewood, Venice, Manasota Key, and extending to Northport. There's been some very heavy and significant rainfall, and we're only about halfway through. So in theory, you could multiply it by 2, and that could give us an idea of what type of totals we could see after it's all said and done. But the problem is, all that water, we're looking at the vicinity impact, that's going to go down the Mayaca River, but the surge is going to prevent it from flowing down properly.
Right. So it has to go somewhere, as you say.
Exactly right.
We're going to have different versions of that all over the area. All this water has to go somewhere, and it won't be able to.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to look at some more video, Matt, here. We want to take you to the Oasis Towers. That's from right along Palm Beach Boulevard. This is on the 33rd floor. This is video of what they're seeing, looking out their window along the Caloosahatchee. Look at the water just being pushed by these winds. And they are watching the water levels rise there right now. We don't know exactly when this was taken, but we're assuming it's fairly recently. Oh, 2:55. Okay, thank you very much from the booth. So this was taken just about 40 minutes ago from the Oasis Towers in Fort Myers.
Good news is at that point, those areas looked fairly normal. We'll see how that changes. We have another video now from the Hilton Garden Inn. I'm not sure which Hilton Garden Inn.
RSW.
This is the one by RSW. Okay, from the 3rd floor. And I know a couple people staying in that area saying the winds have been increasing and very, very strong around the area of FGCU, Alico, and Gulf Coast Town Center. There are several hotels there. A lot of people staying there to get out of the coastal areas. I know the power's out at a lot of those hotels, and you can really see what's going on outside the area.
We want to talk to a viewer right now from on Pine Island. Mark, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Mark, tell us, we saw some video earlier of a lot of storm surge flooding there. Where are you exactly on Pine Island?
I live right off of Stringfellow, and I'm out here clearing the roads now of all the trees laying on Stringfellow right now with my machine.
Are you in central Pine Island, or are you on the Bokeelia side?
I'm on from center all the way up to the north end of the island. I'm about 3/4 halfway of the way up that way.
Okay, so you may be in the eye right now, sir. You may not want to stay outside. There is going to be much more severe weather coming your way. We'd hate to see you being injured.
Yes, ma'am. I've been in it this whole time with my machine. We want to get LCEC and get the power back on as soon as we can. So the road's got to get cleared.
Yes, Mark, I understand, and you're trying to do something nice there, but there's much more storm coming, and you're in the eye, which seems calm now, but it is going to get nasty where you are. It is not safe to be outside at this moment.
Well, I'm in a 16,000-pound machine, covered up, pressurized, and I see people running around on bicycles that concern me more.
Yeah, that
I would agree with that.
I agree. Yes, that's very, very concerning. Your home is fortified. You can go home and hunker down there and be safe.
Yeah, well, I already lost the shingles on my house. All my shingles are gone on the house. Pretty bad out here.
Yeah.
Get a crew out here. You might want. I'm more worried about working my way up to where the migrant facility is, where a lot of the workers stay at, that stayed in the RVs that didn't leave.
Oh, boy.
Right, yeah.
Boy, we really pray for them. We hope they are well. But, Mark, we're also very concerned about you. We really don't want anyone out
appreciate that.
in this weather. And I can assure you that emergency officials don't want you out in it either. If something happens, they cannot come to you. So please get yourself to a safe location if you would.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark,
Yes,
this is Matt Devitt. I
Hey,
wanted
Matt,
to.
how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? I want to tell you. I want to tell you real quick.
From now on, hurricane season, we need to just go straight to you and forget the rest of them, dude. You are on the money.
Oh, I pray that very kind of you. But hey, your safety is paramount here, man. I want you to be safe here because, yes, you just went through the first eye wall and right now you're in the calm. But the problem is you're going to get a double whammy here coming up of a greater surge because it's coming in from the Gulf. The wind direction is going to change. And we also are going to see another round of 100-mile-per-hour winds. So, I just can't stress
All right, well,
enough,
let me
man. I
tell
hope
this guy in the bicycle he needs to seek cover, and I'll head back to the house.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, just be
Thank
safe.
you very
Just
much.
be safe for us. We care about you, man. Be safe.
We want to make sure
No, I
everybody
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. We want to make sure everybody is here to talk about this storm afterwards and doing everything they can to stay safe while we get through the worst of it, which we are in right now.
Yeah. So we have some other videos that we want to show you. We want to take you to Cape Coral to the Rubicon Canal. And Philip Fryman is the person who took this video. And you can see the palm trees blowing there. And there's so much concern for a surge there. You can see the waterway behind this area where he shot this video. He seems to be in kind of a protected area where he's shooting this from. And we're not exactly sure what time this was shot. But there you see a look at the Rubicon Canal in Cape Coral.
Yeah, let's head over to Parker Lakes. That video right there, that last one was shot at 2:40. This, okay, this one here is 1:30. Is this Parker Lakes that we're talking about? Rubicon Canal. Okay. Let's take a look at the Parker Lakes video again. That's devastating. We're seeing a lot of it. More and more people are telling us that pool screens are gone, pool cages are gone. We've seen lanais gone, and thank you for sending it. We're so sorry. We're glad you're safe in your house, but there's going to be a lot of that.
So Parker Lakes down off Gladiolus in South Fort Myers, and they lost their power there at 1:30 as well. So if you're in that section of Lee County, South Fort Myers, you may have experienced that as well.
I think a lot of folks probably have in a lot of different areas.
Right.
Let's check back in with Matt now. And, this thing, we're just listening to it. Everybody's having the same experience. We're having it now where it seems like every thought is interrupted by a sound.
By a gust of wind, you hope that your house is fine. You hope that your family is fine. You get a break for a bit, and then you get another strong gust of wind.
Yep.
And just hang tight, okay? Hang tight. We're about halfway through, depending on your location. For others, Arcadia, DeSoto County, you are just starting. But closer to the interstate, we're about halfway through.
Right.
Okay, so we got another half, but I just caution that this one, the first round was primarily the strong wind. The next one, the winds are going to change. They're going to come from the Gulf, and you will have a double whammy of the strong, damaging winds, but also the surge. The maximum surge event is coming up. Now, for Collier County, that could be the exception as you will be approaching lower tide ahead, but we will still want to caution you about your surge levels as well. But for Lee, Charlotte, Sarasota County, we are starting to evolve into the surge time frame. Okay, so once the eye passes by, the motion around, and we're going to see that as well at WINK. Our high tide is about 7 o'clock. It's about 3:39, and by that point, it would be, in theory, our worst case scenario. It looks like we are seeing a new pulse on radar, if we could punch up one of the radar composites, go full, it looks like here around downtown Fort Myers, we're seeing another pulse and band of very strong wind, which has originated in Cape Coral, and it looks like it's going right up the Caloosahatchee. And if we could, let's punch up weather 2, and that is the system that I'm operating right now, and this is going to be a very fierce line. And so same deal, Chris and Lois, this will be very similar to the round that we had about 30 to 40 minutes ago. Iona, that is where it begins. It races past Southeast Cape Coral, goes all the way into North Fort Myers, extending to Magnolia Landing, and it looks like also Babcock Ranch has seen an extension of the eye wall. It's a broken portion of it, but strong winds, potentially over 100 miles an hour, just passed by Babcock Ranch. I hope everybody is doing okay, hunkering down. I hope you're safe and not injured. And this is just the nature of what we're going to be dealing with, as the diameter of the eye wall is about 20 to as much as 40 miles wide. And look at, guys, what we have in the Gulf. For the radio listeners, we have a massive area of dark red, and that is the western part of the eye wall. And that looks to be about a 2 to 3 hour wind event. The one that we've been dealing with recently, about 1 to 2. The other western side does look a little bit bigger, excuse me, between about 1 to 3 hours.
Okay, so now Sanibel, as I'm looking at this, Sanibel is about to get into the more intense of the second side of the eye wall now. They were in the eye for a long period of time, and now it looks like they could be starting to get very soon into that tougher weather.
And you can see on radar the rotation around it, that west wind. So they already have surge, and what we're going to start to see for Sanibel is an additional pileup of water, and that could legitimately hit over 8 feet plus.
And just to be clear, they're still dealing with the first round of water. It's not like this is round 2 after a drain. This is round 2.
Yeah, exactly right. So we are going to start to see some surge build up as well for Fort Myers Beach, as well as sections all the way up the Caloosahatchee. You got to be on alert. Even for Olga, Alva, Fort Myers Shores, you will gradually start to see that water level rise, if you haven't seen it already, as we go from now and all the way towards sunset.
Okay, I think that do we have this phoner coming up, Lenny, in the booth? I'm just asking about Elaine. Is she with us right now? Okay, so we're still waiting. We're trying to make some connections with some viewers on some of the islands and different areas that have already been affected, so we can get an eyewitness account for you to paint you a better picture of what's happening around our community. I know that you're hearing what's happening immediately near you, but it does benefit all of us to hear what other places have gone through or what they're going through right now.
To know, so we're trying to establish a call on Fort Myers Beach. It would not, let's take a live look now at I-75 at Jacaranda. We're heading further north as we take these pictures one after the other, and look at how bad that is. And that's even further north, 30 miles or so, 25 miles north of the last live picture that we were looking at. And man, you can just see the power of the storm.
It just gives you a picture of what the size of this storm is. Here we are in Fort Myers, and all the way up at mile marker 193, 50 miles from our exit here at Fort Myers at Palm Beach Boulevard, and they're dealing with this too. So it just gives you a picture of the sheer size of this storm.
And I've been seeing new videos. Meteorologist Greg Rule has done a fantastic job, as well as our viewers sending us your observations, also telling us that you're doing fine. And if you do have any injuries or anything like that, please relay that to us. We will try to help you out when it is safe. Right now, it is not safe to venture out, and we just got to hunker down. I've been getting new video in of a lot of manufactured homes that have been shredding apart, and then the winds of 100 launching parts of the manufactured home down the street and hitting power lines as well in the process.
Knocking out power.
And we have so many of those communities in this area, and so many of them that have been in the path of the wind that we've specifically seen so far. All right, I believe we've established contact with Elaine on Fort Myers Beach. And Elaine, first of all, thank you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and you're doing okay?
Yes, we're doing quite well. My husband built a beautiful home for me, and unfortunately, this flood is really doing a number on the outside.
Yeah, Elaine, we were told that you have water all the way up to the top of the stairs, up to your...
Yes, because I got a foyer. We have stairs that go down into the garage, and all the drywall on the side broke in, and now it's just rushing in. And I'm just wondering how much longer this surge is going to come, because I don't want it to be upstairs in the house.
Okay, so you're on your second story right now. You're on the second floor.
I'm on a pile-in home.
Okay, so she's on San Carlos Island.
Yes.
Elaine, I wish I had some better news for you. This is Matt Devitt. Hang tight for me. This is going to be a slow-moving storm, and the wind is going to continue to come in from the Gulf and pile up. Now, granted, you are seeing your high tide about now, and that's why you're seeing the levels that you are. But the problem is, even as you approach low tide, we're still having that strong wind wrapping around Ian and forcing all that water up into San Carlos Island.
Boy, is it ever.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. So many cars have floated by. I mean, furniture. I mean, it's just, I've never in my life, I've lived here a long time, and this is the first. And I'm kind of glad I'm here, because I'm ready to at least get this a little together as far as rinsing down my foyer so it doesn't smell, because there's gas due to the fact my car was in the garage.
Right.
Oh, gasoline.
Right. So there are other
it's
people.
Kind of a little smelly.
Yeah. So there are other people. Just be, make sure you stay safe until you get the all clear, because the nasty weather is not over, as Matt said.
This I know. I've been watching and observing, and I'm doing more laughing than crying, because you have to laugh, because this is just the most insane thing I've ever experienced. And I've born and raised in Miami, so I've been through a lot of hurricanes.
Elaine, I would like to tell you one thing, okay? You're basically at the halfway point, okay?
Halfway?
You're halfway, so hang on tight, okay? You got one more half, and then we can clean up tomorrow. So it's gonna, okay, so hang on tight. We're about 50% through for your location. So you got another 50%, and then this troublemaker will be out of the area, okay?
Well, okay, so hopefully I don't expect any more surge, and I'll be okay up top in my house.
The surge levels will still continue to pile up, but your saving grace at the moment is that Fort Myers Beach is peaking now with high tide. Gradually, as we go deeper into the evening, we will be approaching lower tide. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to see surge, but that may knock off about a foot or two of the maximum surge potential.
No, I'll take that.
All right.
All right.
For sure.
Elaine, please stay safe.
Yeah. Glad you have.
We are. No problem there. It's just, I'm concerned of how much more is coming, and how much I'm putting everything up on everything, because that's how much the water is in.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening to me and answering my question.
And we appreciate it. Stay safe. So glad she has an upstairs.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
that vertical evacuation, we've talked about that a lot today, because normally you don't have to do that unless there's a surge like this, or if there's some sort of water inundation like this. You really don't have to do the vertical evacuation otherwise.
And before the storm, we had literally noted that there was the opportunity for life-threatening storm surge, and literally her life was being threatened by rising water, so she had to get to that second floor. And that is why people evacuated in the areas that were told to evacuate.
Right. Taking a look at our parking lot again in Billy Creek, and right near the Palm Beach Boulevard and the river, as we watch the water come up, we can still see the Billy Creek Bridge over on the top right of the screen, so that's a good sign. But the water is clearly in our parking lot, and it's up a good foot in our parking lot, foot and a half, just in the flat part of the lot.
Yeah, we can't see the docks across Billy Creek anymore, and now we're looking at the area toward Palm Beach Boulevard. That's Palm Beach Boulevard. Yep, there's water there. Oh, the wind is blowing it. Okay, the wind is blowing our camera, so hopefully we'll be able to hang on here, and we'll still have a view from our tower cam. But right now, look at the white caps on Billy's Creek. You don't see that ever.
No.
Ever. But the docks are covered across the way, And there's, you see the Billy Creek Bridge along Palm Beach Boulevard headed toward downtown.
And the water's much higher around some of those homes, not all of the homes in Dean Park, but some of those homes have water much higher, if not too high already. Different again than when we first started looking at it about 45 minutes ago
And
or
now
so.
you're looking in the direction of Caloosahatchee, and across the river would be North Fort Myers. The wind blowing this around, so we're at the mercy of the wind. Boy, are we ever. All of us in Southwest Florida right now who are going through these heavy bands of
Greg.
rain with Hurricane Ian.
I think I'm hearing the transformer pop. Can you pan the camera down? If we can.
Yeah, look at that now. That's a better look at Dean Park.
Go back to the right a little bit, buddy. Yeah, the transformer's been popping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we talk about, we're talking about all this water coming up. We're getting a boil water notice emergency message from the town of Fort Myers Beach. This is not a surprise. Utilities Department today at 2:25, they lost power to their water pump stations. So as a precaution, they're advising you, if you're in that utility area of Fort Myers Beach, boil your water for all uses until further notice. It may be difficult for some people who don't have any power, but hopefully you have your supply of bottled water that you can use for drinking and cooking or whatever else you might need, because the water right now is not safe for those people with the Fort Myers Beach utilities.
And even if you have enough in the house, use it for washing, especially your hands, so that you might tend to put near your mouth. Don't waste it. Make sure you have enough for drinking, but use it a little bit to clean with. And I'm looking at Dean Park here as we look live on this picture. More and more of the houses seem to be having, I'm going to guess, have a water problem. There's a swimming pool we kind of watch at the top middle of your screen, and part of it is because it's raining so hard and it's so windy it's hard to see, but the water definitely looks like it's up to the pool level there. So, and it's just making it under the Billy Creek Bridge now, so we're definitely up from even a few minutes ago.
Yeah, Matt, so many people are asking about the duration. I know you've just talked about it, that we have a half to go yet. We were talking to Elaine on San Carlos Island, but if you're in downtown Fort Myers or areas of Charlotte County, can you give people an estimate of, how long is this terrible, nasty weather going to be over them?
Absolutely. And I think the best way to think about it is the storm right now is heading northeast. Okay, so I'm going to split a line right through it. Okay, so this is essentially your halfway point. So right now, and I have the middle point in the eye. So right now, you could argue that Fort Myers as well as Cape Coral, you're about 40 to 50% through it. We're about 40 to 50% through it. But we had been noting that this is a long duration event. It's a big storm, and it is not one of the faster moving storms. So for, I would say, Rotunda, Englewood, Boca Grande, Pine Island, let's take it even down the coast more, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Bonita Springs, Naples, all of the spots that I had mentioned, you're at the halfway point. So hang on tight, okay? We got a couple more hours. Now, if you are, let's say, to the east of this line, and my line for the radio viewers is from the Mayaca River to Matlacha to Bonita Springs. For those areas east, and especially Arcadia, like for example, you guys are only about a quarter of the way through. So location is going to mean everything. And then even Lake Placid, you're only about 10% through. So we just need to continue to mentally prepare ourselves and also make sure to pace yourself. Just pace yourself here. We're going to get through it. We are going to get through Ian. Eventually, it's going to be pushing inland. The eye right now, guys, I would say it is around Bokeelia, and it is around and on its way to Burnt Storm Marina. So the eye, Bokeelia, to Burnt Storm Marina, Pirate Harbor, it is not impossible to see a little bit of sun in between all the passing clouds. Guys?
All right, and if you're pacing yourself, don't go out in it, but just enjoy it for a minute and exhale, because the halfway mark, this is a lot. I mean, getting to the halfway mark is an accomplishment, and just let yourself breathe, and we'll get to the second half.
We all want it to be over, don't we? We all want it to be over. We all want everyone to be safe, and we will get through this together. We know how hard it is, how scary it is. People are saying they've never been so scared. We understand.
Sure.
It is scary, but we are all here. We're all going to get through this, and we're all going to get through it together. We're going to go now to Michael, who is in Rotunda West. He's on the phone with us. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. How are you doing? We understand you lost some trees.
Oh, yes. It's so I'm in Rotunda West. Yeah, we can't even step outside the door right now. It pretty much sounds like there's a freight train coming through. Yeah, we had a tree fall that took out our lanai. And we live on a canal, and the two people that live across from us both lost their decks.
Okay.
The decks just floated away.
Okay.
So
yeah, and our next door neighbor lost his lanai as well. But right now it's so bad here, and it's been relentless for 2 straight hours.
Right. Yeah, we're looking at some of the Wink Doppler 3X right now, and we're seeing some of the nasty weather near you in Charlotte County, and there's more to come, unfortunately.
Yeah, we've been waiting for that eye. We were kind of excited, so maybe we could go out and take the tree off of my car.
I think, I think I would wait. I would wait for that, but so sorry to hear that you have damage at your home, but we are so glad to hear that you're safe and in your home.
Yes, we're definitely hunkered down, and we don't have power here as well as probably everybody else around us. But it does sound just like a freight train, and the canal looks like an ocean. It has white caps on a canal.
So that's not a direct access canal. It's just a freshwater waterway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the smaller ones here in Rotunda, and they did finally open, I guess, the little levee to let some water come out because it was starting to come up a little bit higher.
Okay.
But I could try. You know what? I'll just peek out the front door, and maybe you can even hear how.
Please don't do that, Michael. We don't want you to. We don't want you to do that.
Hey, Michael.
We might have lost
This is Matt Devitt. In Rotunda, the other eye wall is about to move in. So I know you were initially hit with the eastern eye wall. Well, the western eye wall is literally on your doorstep. So you're seeing. I know the calmer conditions now. It's going to go from 0 to literally 100 very shortly. So, yeah, let's just hunker down, stay inside.
I think it's pretty much 100 right now here.
Okay, all right. Well, they probably went 0 to 100 real fast. So, just stay in the interior and just ride it out. We're almost through it, okay?
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And we've lost power, so we're listening to you.
Okay, all right. We appreciate it. We'll try to be as descriptive as we can so you know what's going on. Thank you so much, Michael. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you guys very much. We love you.
Love you guys,
love
too.
You too.
Wink News anchor Nicole Gabe is here now with some brand new video to show us. Nicole.
Yeah, one of my friends actually who lives in the Oasis building, so that is right across the street from Wink News, is in Oasis. If we could take this video full screen, I'll go ahead and press play. I want you to take a close look at the clothing, though. You slowly see it swaying back and forth. Now, keep in mind, Oasis is a tall building. People who are in there right now are feeling the impacts of that wind right here. We hear the wind as well. But this just kind of gives you an idea of just how strong that wind is. I mean, this closet is in the interior of Oasis. His clothes, again, are just shaking back and forth. But that video was sent to me about an hour ago or so. But we just wanted to get that to you and give you an idea of what it's looking like from the Oasis building. We do have a lot more video, though, coming in. And we're going to bring that to you guys as well as soon as we can. Back to you.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much. I mean, even the little things like that give you an idea of how massive and powerful this is and what people are going through, even in homes that have been fortified and are secure and are built after Andrew and all of that. I mean, it's just, you can't escape it. at all.
No, but those towers, are very new, built. They're built to have that kind of give.
They can take it.
You're right, and so they're built for it, but it still doesn't.
Doesn't make you feel any better when it's happening.
when it's happening, yeah.
Well, listen to this. I actually, during the peak of Irma, I was living in that, I was living across the street, and the condo was shaking.
Yeah.
Same thing. So when I saw that video, it was kind of deja vu, and that is, if it brings some peace of mind, the building architecturally is made to do that, and it is steel reinforced, but like we saw in that video, it sways, it's freaky, I agree, but the building will not cripple and fall apart. It can structurally take that wind.
Yeah, they're brand new buildings. It's
It's just okay. Oh, we have another. Let's take this new video. We've seen. Oh gosh, look at that. This is Cape Coral. The roof blowing off about an hour ago, Southeast 37th Street. This is going on more than we're seeing.
Whenever a home is breached in any way through a window by the garage door, which is your largest opening, and it gets in there, this is what can happen when you're in an older home where the roofs aren't reinforced the way they have been since Hurricane Andrew in 1992. This is what happens, and it's just devastating. And hopefully that no one was in that home at the time.
Hard to tell if that at the other end is a covered patio or something where it may have started, but still, it doesn't matter for those poor people that live there. That is the whole roof pretty much.
Multiple reports of winds over 100 miles an hour in Cape Coral, bare minimum. I just got an update at Punta Gorda Airport, 124 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
124 miles an hour. The wind gusts within the hour. Punta Gorda Airport. Meteorologist Greg Rule is going to update all of the wind speeds that have been coming in. We will get you that list momentarily, but we have seen multiple spots with winds 120 to 130, and I think after the fact we may find even higher reports come in.
That's not far from where the Emergency Operations Center is in Charlotte County. It's there because it's a higher point in the county, and so we'll be checking in with Zach Oliveri, who's hunkered down right in that area of
and those
County.
Buildings are strategically made to withstand Category 5 conditions, both in location but also the way that they are constructed. But still, a 124 gust can certainly pack a punch.
Yeah, most definitely.
As we look at downtown Fort Myers and some of the areas around here, and if you remember off the top of your head, when is high tide downtown?
7:06, if my memory serves me right. It's around that time. But the problem is Ian is in no hurry, and we are still going to have that southwest wind.
That's why I asked.
So the wind is
second band too.
Right, and it's quite an intense band. So the water is going to continue to pile up.
Oh, it's hard to, let's see, what do we have now? Okay, we're watching Dean Park, and across from us, I-75 at 136 at Colonial, or thereabouts. Saw one car go by right when we took it, but other than that, this camera actually seems to be either the camera's holding together a little bit better than the last one, or the wind is a little bit less there than it was last time we were in the general area.
Right, and these are the FDOT cameras that we don't control. Of course, the same ones we use for traffic in the morning when you're watching Wink News this morning, and showing you right now no cars. The concern right now is just what the conditions are out there. But I-75 for a lot of people, Matt, you said there's some nasty weather that was going into Gateway and Lehigh Acres. They may not have the same surge concerns, but clearly they're getting these winds as well.
Absolutely, 100 mile per hour plus winds, those gusts, possible. We're talking even far away from the beaches, Lehigh, Fort Myers Shores, Babcock Ranch, winds 100 miles an hour plus. And something to just keep in mind is that we saw this with the porch in the Lanai in that one video, where oftentimes, and you'll see this with a landfalling hurricane, gas stations, same type of structure, the wind goes under them and then causes them to tip over. And I bring that up because there may be a search for gas in the area, and I would plan on the possibility that a good amount of our gas stations are either damaged or destroyed in parts of Southwest Florida. So in the search for gas after the storm, I have a feeling that a sizable amount of our gas stations have either been damaged or completely destroyed.
Yeah, some of them will, by this new state law, they have, generators so they can, once they're up and running, they can be running even if there's no power. Not all of them, some of them have, but it just gives you, keep in your mind, you should be reserving your gasoline, reserving your supplies right now. The state is set up. They're ready to come in here and help us out in any way that they can as soon as the storm clears, but it does take some time to get the water back in here, the gas trucks back in here, and the power companies out in safety and working.
And the other thing that changed, we get better at this every time we have a hurricane, but we also grow every time we have a hurricane. We have so many more people here than we had even after Irma, who, if gas is short and other things are short, it's going to take a little bit longer. And utilities, we have more underground and more protected, but yet we also have more people and more houses. It's going to take a while.
Yeah.
I think that's very well said. I mean, when have we ever had something to this caliber make landfall in Southwest Florida? We are all experiencing this together, and we are all learning and seeing what this is doing to our area, from the surge to the wind, and we will grow from it. We will clean up from this, but we are right now at the halfway point. We got to get through the other half. By tomorrow, gradually, yes, we still deal with the surge, but gradually we turn a corner. Friday, even better, and then by the weekend, that's when we look at the scope of what Ian did.
Yeah, and we're not going anywhere through all of this. You're going to need information, not just now, but after post-storm. You're going to need to know what you need to do and where you need to go, and we'll have that for you, too.
We have Teresa on the phone, I believe, now in the Burnt Store Marina area. Hey, Teresa, can you hear us?
I sure can, guys. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for us.
Thank you. The least we can do for you, Teresa. We understand you think you're in the eye?
I'm absolutely in the eye. I got to go out around the house, take a look, assess the neighborhood, and see how the floods are looking. We're right on the Charlotte Bay.
Yes.
And we have the park next to us. So we're right on the northwest corner of Old Burnt Store Road. And I said, hey, let me give these guys a call, because in the eye, I can call people.
So you're